From beyond the farthest reaches of our galaxy they come. Two brains pulsing with a strange energy. These space brains come to share their love of science fiction movies.
Hi, welcome to Space Brains, the show where we joy-watch sci-fi movies and then talk about what was good and what was great. I'm Surrey, and this is Mark.
Hiya! Tonight we are talking about The Fifth Element. It's a classic, Surrey. It was made in 1997, starring Bruce Willis.
Another Willis
film. Directed by Luc Besson, who also wrote it along with Robert Mark Kamen.
Yes, or Kamen.
Or Kamen.
Yes, so turn back now if you haven't seen this film, because we're going to talk all about it. This is just spoiler warning.
Warning. Yeah, warning.
And then tune back in and hear what we have to say.
Please tune back in.
We want to see you, but we can't see you.
No.
We like to pretend to see you.
Yeah, we do. We do like to pretend, like in The Fifth Element. There's lots of pretending going on, a lot of imagination.
Although, Jerry, I can see what you're doing, and please stop.
Yeah, please, Jerry.
Jerry, stop.
Press pause on that behaviour.
I really hope that there is someone called Jerry listening.
Yeah, I do too. I imagine Jerry. Jerry's there. Anyway, The Fifth Element is basically set way in the future from today, a couple of hundred years. It's extremely colourful, and we focused in on a cab driver played by the one and only Bruce Willis, who unwittingly becomes a central figure in the search for a legendary cosmic weapon to keep evil, literal evil, a whole planet of evil coming towards us. And the deadly Mr. Zorg, who is played by the awesome actor Gary Oldman. This is our second Gary Oldman, second Bruce Willis film. I just realised.
That's
second
fantastic.
and second. So perfect for a classic episode, Surrey. So, Surrey, what was your number one takeaway from The Fifth Element?
My number one takeaway from The Fifth Element: in the future, smoking is cool.
It's
Still.
extremely cool. I like it. Really long filters.
I do. I love the reversed filter cigarette design. It caught me when I first watched this back when I was a youngster, and I still love it now. The other thing, of course, is rubber is very important in the future, but also radio personalities, aka podcasters, are still important people.
It's cool that they, like the radio broadcaster, Chris Tucker does such a good job at that role, doesn't he? It's just like it's a one-in-a-lifetime performance. It's one of those, because he's not the lead actor, it's like a little cameo, really. And he's just, I remember even at the time when I first watched this film, it just blew me away.
It was outrageous. The funny thing about this whole film, if you're going to talk about Chris Tucker's performance, is it's a 50-50 split on people liking or loathing the film. And Chris Tucker's performance was hailed as, eccentric and zany and exciting and one of the high points of the movie. And at the same time, there were people who just said it was the most awful, terrible character, great way of ruining a film type of thing.
Yeah.
I come down on it's amazing. And I remember when I was a kid watching it, I was just like, the intensity of this character in contrast to Bruce Willis's understated character and Lilu's sort of confused character and the two priests.
Yeah.
And then you got this Ruby Rod going,
and the opera thing as well. So I think that's the thing looking back this time watching it again compared to when I was a kid. His performance, I could understand being a bit like jarring, but then when you compare it to, like with the opera singer as well and the aliens, it's kind of makes a lot of sense to me. Like it makes sense that he is so outrageous. Like I really like it. And it also, I think a lot of this film, like whenever they predict the future, you're only ever predicting the future from your current point of view. You can't really predict the future, right? Well, maybe some people can. But in a science fiction film, they're always coming from the place that they're at. And if you're in the 90s, radio presenters were like this, weren't they? The commercial, and they probably still are. I don't know.
The Howard Sterns and here in Australia, we still have some of these people that are just really horrible. They're horrible personalities. Example. I don't know about them in personal life. They may be great people. I'm not going to comment on that, but their radio personalities are designed to have a reaction, give you a reaction either one way or the other.
Because the whole smoking thing is the perfect example. Like mid-90s, people are still smoking heavily, and especially like where this film was based, coming from France. Whereas, like you can see in Australian culture, what the Australian government has done pretty successfully over time is raise taxes significantly on cigarettes, which slowly does put people out of a price point of affording them, and also then working on a heavy information campaign of advertising, etc., about the damaging effect to your health of cigarettes. And then even they were the first country in the world, and a lot of other countries looked at and followed the idea of warning labels on the actual product, and then eventually, which was taken to court by the cigarette companies and they failed, was the idea of plain packaging. And all of that, you can see in Australia that the rate of people smoking is actually continually decreasing.
It's not legal to smoke in clubs,
and that's another
pubs,
thing.
or
Sorry,
bars.
So
that was awesome. The number of times
Yeah.
you come home from a night out and you reek of smoke and your throat hurts and you're coughing up a lung and they said, of course everyone said, we'll all go out of business if we can't do it. No, the clubs and bars haven't gone out of business. They're just nicer places to be in now.
Yeah.
And it's not because people can't smoke in there. They've got to huddle out the back in specially designated smoking areas. It's not as glamorous.
Yeah, it's not as attractive.
More people are kind of foregoing it. They're going,
yeah,
I won't bother.
That's right.
Why do it?
So the reason why I say that is it's funny because that prediction in this film is like a little pack of cigarettes on the wall that say, my goal is to quit, and you kind of pay for each cigarette, I think, kind of was the idea maybe. And it's very like clinical, whereas of course, over the last, if you take Australian society over the last sort of 25 years, all those things I've mentioned, the packaging, the access to cigarette, where you can smoke is all restricted. So whereas in this point in time, midnight is like, how would people smoke less? The filter would get really big.
Yeah, big filter.
They would sell less tobacco,
Which is it's that joke, isn't it, where the product gets a bit smaller. The toilet rolls have got 10 less sheets on it, and they've done it because you've got now the typical beer bottle here in Australia is 330 mils.
Reduced. Yeah, whereas 375.
To be fair, that's because it was 330 in most other countries, but Australia was 375 as a standard.
Yep.
And there's case of beer costs about the same as it did 10, 15 years ago, but the bottles are now 330 ml, not 375. Liquor, whiskey, vodka sold in 700 ml used to be 750 ml, and so on. And so here the cigarettes have got itty bitty little thumbs width of tobacco, so and then like the rest of it's
and he also like is a nice touch is he doesn't have anything to light the damn cigarette with the whole time. He's trying to light it.
Yes, 3 matches or something. Yeah.
It's great. It's a great little attention to detail, isn't it?
Oh, okay, so was it a hope warning or experiment?
Hope. I feel for hope. I think it's clearly hope because it's ultimately mankind trying to find itself and the essence of who we are, which is love. Like this is about love.
Love is the goodness.
Love is the good part of humanity, not war or violence and all the other things that are present. And I think it's pretty obvious in this film, really, to be honest, because you've got a blank slate in Lilu, who then starts learning about humanity more and more as the story progresses. And Bruce Willis's character, Korben Dallas, or Major, they kept calling him Major for most of this film, but he falls in love with her, and so that's that symbol of humanity. The best bit of humanity is probably love.
He's a warrior,
yeah,
and he's seen a lot of death. His unit was all dead.
Yeah.
You don't know the history of that.
And he's left the unit as well. He's not part of it. He doesn't want to be part of it. So
it's kind of like there's opposites. And she of course was the warrior, the perfect warrior sent to fight evil. And yet, the discovery, war kind of is a bit destructive.
Definitely.
Yes, I hope. There's no possibility this is a warning. Unless it's warning if you dry flying taxis you might get a supermodel drop in.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm going to get a flying taxi.
Flying taxi. Where are those flying cars that we've been promised this whole
I'll keep
time?
a few straps of orange rubber around just in case.
Just for her to get dressed in. What was your favourite scene? Sorry.
Oh man, there's too many great
Well,
scenes.
just pick
here.
one, please.
One of the favourite scenes is Vito Cornelius talking with Mr. Zorg, and Mr. Zorg explains how destruction and chaos gives purpose to so many people.
I know, it's so cool.
And it's kind of a bit meaningless. And then we get the little scene where the glass comes up, water sprays in, the little computer voice says, water. And then the cherries pop up, fruit. And then he picks up a cherry, a single cherry. You know, you can hear this little voice just narrating everything in this passionless computer voice. Swigs down the water with cherry, and it's a strange thing to do. And then promptly starts choking on the cherry. At which point he's mashing his desk, trying to find some little gizmo or something, and there's like cards shooting up, and there's flowers and a Rolodex and goodness knows other little things.
And an alien.
This weird little alien snorkel-nosed creature that just kind of looks all cute at him, and he's like pointing at himself to asking the alien to help him. The alien just kind of looks stupidly at him. So my job is to be cute. It doesn't say that, but yeah, it's. I remember almost dying of laughter when I watched it the first time, and watching it the second time, I very much appreciate it.
And the priest then takes the upper hand, doesn't he, and sort of like lectures him whilst he's choking and going through all these gadgets. It's the opposite of, well, you're in a destructive mode right now and you need someone to save you, right?
Yeah. It's about people helping each other.
Yeah.
Not breaking stuff to give people an artificial sense of purpose.
It's a funny scene because it's a really great, actually, for all writers out there, it's a really good example of showing and not telling. And the old rule of showing and not telling in a good film is that we should see what they mean. So we shouldn't really be in just exposition of someone talking through stuff, right? Films have to have exposition at times. And there's rules around that. But this is a really good example where, Gary Oldman's character, Mr. Zorg's like, he goes, he believes destruction helps society. So he visualizes that by smashing the glass and all the robots come in and saving and changing. And he's making his lecture. Whereas then when he is choking, it's still the same. It's showing us the opposite. And like his gadgets can't save him. The priest is like, no, you need a person. You need someone here. You need another human.
You need someone who cares.
You need someone that cares, right? So you can have all the gadgets in the world, but can the gadgets save you? I'd probably argue he probably should have something that could save him, something that could do CPR if he has a desk that does.
I don't think Zorg was into making useful stuff.
No, he wasn't into that.
He had that purpose-bred little alien to look cute and little multiple sweepy bots to do the one task. No. It's pretty much...
It's a great scene.
There are plenty of other great scenes, but I do like that one because, as you said, it sums up a lot. And Luc does it very well in this film in general with background storytelling whilst keeping it interesting.
Yeah.
It's lovely. That telephone that Dallas is always on.
Yeah.
That's just great.
It is.
So I've got something I want to know from you.
Okay. Go for it. I am the expert of the fifth element.
Okay. So there's a lot of sci-fi world building in this movie, which is something I love. So what part of the world building, what scene displaying some sort of non-essential story element that builds the world did you find most effective or most interesting?
I liked this idea of you're stumping my brain right now what are their names? You got the
Mangalores?
Mandoshawans, which are kind of like the penguin all-saving...
Pingus.
They waddle. That's why I'm calling them like penguins. They're cool characters. I still... The minute that they came in, because just to be honest, like I've watched this movie as a kid. I watched it again as a kid or, like a young teenager. As a teenager, sorry, not young. Shouldn't say as a kid. I watched it as a teenager a couple of times, but I haven't watched it since. And so when those guys came in, my heart jumped a bit, because it's kind of like, these guys, these Mondo Shawans.
Yeah, that's the ones. Yeah.
I just kind of was like, wow, I've forgotten. Where have you been in my life all these years? Because they're just waddling in. They got their little fingers. They're kind of, and also the way that Luke shot and showed them. It's a great example again of not showing everything. There's a lot left to the imagination.
Who knows where these creatures come from, what their real purpose is, why. Yeah, we don't know any of the whys behind any of this. It's great. And
so I suppose when you talk about world building in my mind, it's like how they have come to Earth, they've put this weapon here, and then now they're coming back in 1914 at the start of the movie to remove it because war is coming, whatever the hell that means.
World War One?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
1914 is World War One, but I was never sure.
Yeah,
if World War One was the reason they were moving it.
Blowing my mind right now.
1914.
Maybe you're right, because also Egypt was part of. It wasn't the conflict zone, but it was Egypt was a bit of a middle ground, wasn't it? Because the Australians went there to train and stuff, didn't they? Oh man, you're blowing my mind. I thought he meant war is coming as in outer space.
Well, that's the implication.
Yeah. But, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe war is coming because it was 1914. Ooh. Anyway, so I suppose the thing is that, and then when they do come back, they say that 300 years evil is coming. When they come back and they're allowed entrance into the planet, and then the what are the other guys called?
Mangalores.
The Mangalores. They attack them sort of sneakily and stuff. It's like, have these guys got a history? Is this what this thing? Is this like some sort of historical beef? Or is this just they kind of raid, they're raiders, they're like pirates and stuff. And so I suppose, again, world building, it's like these intergalactic alien species that have other things going on beyond humanity.
Yeah.
We're not the center of the universe, Surrey. Oh.
No, well, how many other planets do these Mandashuans rock up to and hand over keys to?
Yeah. Well, I don't think they hand over keys. That guy handed over key because he's a slow penguin. He couldn't get out of that freaking room shut in time, could he? No.
Well, and this is what I liked about that entry, or about this movie in general. Everyone was a character. There was not. There was almost basically no extras in this film which did not have personality. Yeah. As you said, these waddling dudes, we got no names, we got no anything else, but they had this sort of personality about them. They were freakish looking and almost comical. You're going, okay, whatever. But then there's the professor who's as light, Aziz, and Aziz is asleep there.
And the police officers are into their Big Macs, or their burgers, and it's actually if I don't get another burger, if I don't eat something. So they have more context. You are right. And even the president he's stoic, isn't he?
And then when they're getting on the plane to fly off into space to go to Phlogiston or wherever it is,
Floster's Paradise or something.
Yeah. Oh, geez, I just watched this a couple of hours ago. I can't remember it. But they're going in there and they've got to there's parasites in the landing gear. And you go, what? This has nothing to do with the film.
No.
They go in there and flamethrow it.
Yeah.
But while they're doing that, there's this sort of Rastafarian looking dude and this rather lobotomized looking blonde
kid. He's weird, isn't he? And
they're characters. They're not just extras in the background just loading fuel rods. They're actually hey man, you do that over there, and the other kids
are they're handling platonic.
They're shifting this green glowing stuff and just the whole scene was a character. Everyone in there, they could have easily had, and I'm sure I've seen plenty of movies with this, where they were down there, there's parasites in the landing gear, and you just see some unnamed dudes with flamethrower, and in the background there's a couple of people, sweeping.
Yeah, that's all you need, isn't it?
And doing whatever. But here, they had lines that they spoke and jumped out with personality, and then everyone on this, they had the in the opera house, that deaf star, wearing his weird doilies.
Yeah.
He was a little character as well. Comically he couldn't hear and he rolls a billiard ball.
And the guy, I don't know what you call him, butler or whatever, on the ship that lets in the opera. He was The filmmaker there has given power to them because it's like they're giving them little context, aren't they? Like remember he stood at the door and he was like looking at trying to memorize what to say, and see the filmmaker could decide not to show us that, and just the opera singer comes, and then here's the butler or the waiter or whatever you call them, and no, but we're giving him context only, haven't we? We're giving him 20 seconds of context.
I think that's one of the things that was a standout when I was younger watching this. The first time I watched it, and I remember walking away from this, just my mind was full. It was like, that's a whole universe that could be explored. You know, what were those parasites? Why was the airport full of junk?
Yeah, and then she says that. She goes, apologies for the junk, but doesn't explain.
Yeah, there's just like a wall of garbage.
Yeah.
Sort of like it's just been bulldozed and pushed out of the way.
Yeah.
And there's those yellow circles to put your hands on when the cops come around.
The circles,
everywhere.
Right? Everywhere,
like they just expect that's going to be there. It's a very authoritarian regime here. Even like the flight attendants. Yes, time to go to sleep. Oh, hang on, just one. And she just presses the button, knocks him out. Like, so rude. Like, you'd never get that now. You'd get that sort of, I'm being polite but insistent, But then here, no, it's just button push. You're out of it. Get out.
And you did get that. Even the flight attendants all had some sort of context, didn't they? They had a little bit of a pre-story, backstory, freckle. That one that checked them all in. She had her own thing going on, and that's why even the cops. As I mean, going back to the cops, like they could have just been cops chasing them, but he puts a whole scene in there where the cops are like getting burgers and I'm not going to chase anyone.
They're sighing.
Yeah, so
I hope he doesn't do this the hard way. Okay, he didn't listen. And they have to follow through. And and the mugger at the front, he says, "Give it a kiss, give it a kiss." Take it. I don't need it.
And he's got the hat to block the security.
He does a little dance and you're just like, what the hell is going on here? Because that could have just been a simple mugging to show it's a dangerous part of town. But
that's the thing. Like anyone that kind of bags out Chris Tucker's performance, like. There's a lot of extremity, isn't there, in the story? They're all a bit like...
Everything's over the top.
Everything's over the top. So, and it's a good over the top, except for Bruce Willis.
Yeah, he's the plain man who's just sort of found himself there, the straight man, as it were.
Which is, this is a clever device. Like, we watched Oblivion, and they did a very similar thing with Tom Cruise's character, in that they... you're in this futuristic world that's very abstract to our world, but they... make the protagonist a real down-to-earth, everyday American that kind of then the audience goes, I get Bruce Willis. Everyone else is weird, but I get Bruce Willis. He's like an anchor in the story, right?
Yeah, because if he was as weird as the rest of the cast...
then you'd be feeling it, I think.
It'd be more like Gora. That movie Gora, which ripped a bit of this off, it was great.
Yeah. So that's my world building. Sorry, does that make sense? I think that's what I'd be into. I'm like, where do those aliens come from, and what's their deal, and have they had beefs and with other planets, and is this thing going on for a lot longer than humanity?
Well, it mentions at the Mangalores when he's Oldman's character Zorg is going to pay them with the guns. He mentions that they've been dispossessed of their planet or something, and they're fighting a losing cause. Yeah, doesn't say what the cause is or why they've been kicked out or by who or anything like that. But they're just kind of it's the world building that really gets me going here.
Yeah, definitely. So you've seen this film before. I've seen it before. When was the first time you saw this?
Let's see. I wonder if I saw it. Did I see it in the cinema? I think I might have. 1997 was my last year of uni. I graduated at the end of 97. I must have watched this. I watched this just after uni, so 98, I would say, because this was back in the day where movies took a little while to reach Australia.
They did, yeah.
So it would have been 98 after uni, and I was back in Canberra. I remember it was in Canberra. Saw it with my nerd friends because we watched everything that was science fiction, basically.
Yeah.
Nerds. And as I said, the reaction coming out of that was, I know the story is it's a nice story about a bit of romance, saving the world. But the thing that blew me away was just the fact that you could just imagine this whole universe. That one story is just one part. Like, for example, the penguin dudes. Like, why do they come to Earth? There's some evil ball is going to come destroy Earth, but the penguins are involved somehow. And are there other planets that face a similar quandary in different galaxies where there's like a black ball going to come down? Are there dead galaxies where they didn't succeed?
Yes.
You know, every 5,000 years, a sphere of evil turns up and tries to annihilate as much as it can, I suppose.
Yeah, are these guys God, or are they just a species that understands how to destroy this evil species? And where does this evil ball come from? I mean, is it just then all of us and our evil thoughts? Like, because that's kind of implied, isn't it? That they say with the evil sphere that, you know, it's not interested in money or power or anything like that, and it grows if you feed it evilness. That's why Zorg's kind of attracted to it, right? And then it's kind of like, it's not here to conquer the world like a man would conquer the world. It's just going to come and destroy it. Like, and that's what it gets from it.
Kill life
As
much as it can.
Yeah.
I figure there must be some limit. It's not the entire universe it'd be killing. That's what I'm thinking. I always thought that there must be some dead galaxies about the place.
Well, because even with what happens is, I mean, it gets pretty close to wiping out Earth. So, I mean, does it just wipe out planets and the Mandalorians? No. They're the other guys, aren't they?
Mandoshawans or the...
Mondoshawan.
Yeah.
the penguins. I like the penguins. The penguins, like, are they like, oh, damn it, we forgot about that planet.
Well, every 5,000 years it rocks up, right?
Yeah.
The fifth element is human. So humans have only been around for like 100,000 years. So this only happened, 20 times? 200 times?
Yeah.
At most. And prior to that, did they have to get, the 4 element stones and a dinosaur in there to repel? Or is it, like I said, is this evil ball attracted because humans are there?
Yeah.
Or intelligent life is there? So other planets likewise threatened in some periodic nature. It's just, but that was my experience, was just, it filled me with so many questions and it's so interesting. I didn't feel I'd missed out on any information, but I felt, you could have a series of movies set in this universe. Yes. Not sequels, but just, there's so many other pockets of this universe that you could explore, that it would just be, it'd be fascinating to explore.
Yeah, I remember when I saw this at the movies, and I was a teenage boy, and I think the things that ticked a lot of the boxes is, it is a pretty standard structured story that, save the universe, save the girl, save the universe kind of idea. So that has been around, but some of the details we've already talked about, but, I remember being amazed with that idea of New York at the start, and we're up in the sort of sky. And so it's kind of like a big build, the way I imagine New York, because again, I've never been to New York, but lots of really big buildings. I've been to some big cities now.
Like Perth.
Yeah. But, you're all these big...
It's got that one tower.
It's got that one tower. But, I've been to Dubai and stuff, where you've got all these huge towers and all those sort of things. And you think, okay, so this is... I remember being a teenage boy going, it's a really cool idea that you got all these different layers of traffic. So even though humans have kind of like, flying car would say, well, it's like, no, there's all this traffic still. Like, it's like the same problems that we face. And even those things that we talked about with Bruce Willis, like he's got a shitty apartment. He doesn't have a great apartment. It's not like, it's in the future, but things don't quite work and things are a bit broken and they're a bit, I always tend to lean a bit more into these future science fiction films when it's not, everything's like white and utopian perfect, and even the fact that Zorg, when he was choking and he bashes his desk with all of the technology, and there's these stupid technology, like a pack of cards comes flying out, like you think like, what's the point of that? And you're like, well, because humans, we're sort of a bit stupid like that, aren't we? That we go, I want a pack of cards because it would impress a girl, and so again, I think I remember thinking at the time, it's always cool to have the future, but it's not a perfect future, and it's a bit crumbled and it's got cracks in it. And, to have police officers that aren't, oh, do we really have to do it? And even Bruce Willis says, oh, if they don't chase you after the first mile, you're probably going to get away, Yeah. And then there's 4 cars chasing him, so it's like, oh no, you're in for this. And, the fact that they do go down to that fog layer, what the hell is that?
We'll lose them in the fog, and you go,
does no one live in the fog anymore? And then it's like, oh, so we built up because the ground is just so polluted. I really love a future. It's kind of taking our modern society and just shoving it 300 years from now, It's not like we've solved everything. We've solved the environment crisis. We're okay. It's like, no, we didn't solve anything. We've just kind of kept surviving. Yeah. So I really liked that. I think also the fact that Milla Jovovich, geez, as a teenage boy, they reincarnate this naked, hot woman.
Well, she was a model before she was an actress.
Yeah, she's a model, right? And she's she's foreign. She plays like she's a foreign alien, right? It's almost like, oh wow, and then in the film they keep having these moments where she's naked, but they don't really show you anything. They just really tease it. I think it was a really cool way, and the guys keep turning around.
Yeah, and block the camera.
Yeah. It was such a there was other films I saw even in this era, like Wild Things, where you sort of saw a lot of titillation, deliberately Hollywood titillation. Whereas this film, they kind of, whenever that was about to happen, they just kind of found a way of blocking it.
It was also convenient that she's not voluptuous.
Yeah.
So there wasn't, even there's a couple of bits there where you do see some nipple.
Yeah, you do.
So forth, but they're not heaving mounds of bosom.
No, that's right. No.
So it's kind of that they're not, I'm sorry, Milla,
yeah.
You're gorgeous. We know that. But it's not that, it's not, shall we say, in your face.
Yeah.
Which, like you said, some of these other ones, it would be,
they do the close-ups.
Yeah, they take off the jacket or something and the chest comes forward towards the thing, and there's
that's what I'm saying.
A healthy D cup going on there. But Milla was reserved, so you go, oh, that is a bit of nudity there, but it's not kind of, big red nipples and heaving bosoms.
But it was also very innocent nudity, right? It's like she's wet, so she takes it. She's changing her top.
Yes,
and she's also very naive about her body and her beauty, whereas quite often in all these other ones, they're hopping out of the pool, flicking their hair back, walking out, and the jacket doesn't fit anymore, I fell in the pool, that old chestnut,
my top button just doesn't seem to do up. Oh dear.
Whereas this was more just naturally occurring nudity, and she seemed so naive about it. But
she looked comfortable, I think, is the
I
point.
remember being a teenage boy and just kind of sitting back in the chair because it was just such amazing things to look at.
Yes, and particularly because she kicked some of those
that's
monster
right.
thingos in the face.
She's tough.
And this basically launched her as an action hero. She's done 1,000 Resident Evils, which I have to say I have seen them all.
Yeah.
Because it's Milla Jovovich smashing zombies. Why would you not watch that?
Yeah.
And she's got a new movie coming out, Monster Hunter World or something rather, based on a computer game. But she's the same, not the same character obviously, but she's military. She's shooting guns, fighting monsters. So, what's there not to like about that? But this is what launched 1,000 monster fighting careers for her.
Yeah.
It's the fact that she was fighting these monsters.
So, sorry, is there any other references to a Bruce Willis movie?
There's a fair bit of Die Hard going on.
Yeah.
Even where he's jumping off the balcony.
Yeah.
It's exploding. He's jumping off down into the bottles. You're kind of almost waiting to see him step on something and be pleased he's wearing shoes or something. Or maybe the moment where he's getting into his tux. Because in Die Hard, he's in his tux to go to the thing, but he takes his shoes off and scrunches his toes like he was told by the guy in the aeroplane. So you'd almost want, he's got his tux on and, scrunches his toes once and then puts his shoes on and gets up and walk out. Maybe there'd be 2 on the nose.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a bit of that going on.
He's got the shirts ripped down and the guns out.
Consequently, a bit of Die Hard 3.
Yeah.
And I don't think Die Hard 3... I think Die Hard 3 was actually after this one.
I'd say it would be, yeah.
Taxi Driver with his shirt torn, I don't know. It's probably a reverse reference. But
well, we are in the future. So, you know.
I don't know if there's any other films. It's probably like most of his films. He plays the same sort of character.
He does. He does.
And as we mentioned in Surrogates, and he does it well. So it's kind of good like that. And what about the scene where he gets up and he puts the trophy down and the rising music he's about to accept an award? That's pretty funny. Yeah. But so what about? I don't think that's in any of his movies. But anyway, so what about the Mangalores? You were talking about them earlier. You like them?
Yeah. Well, the Mangalores. No, they're the
shape changing.
Yeah, shape changing ones. So I mean, I think I really liked. It was. I presume I didn't research it. So I mean, from watching it, I liked that they could change their faces, and they changed them. And that scene where Zorg says. He says, "Oh, you know, like you don't have a very good face on, you know," and it's like a black man or whatever. But it's cool because then he shakes it out, and he's then this alien creature. And the clever thing with that is then we see the black man later on the ship, don't we? So it's like such a cool little, like, you know, connection, little black herring or whatever they call it. But I like that they're like that. I like that they're kind of like very visceral. I like that they're very. They're kind of like dogs that shake drool off their face. Yes. They're kind of tough and strong. They remind me a fair bit of like, is it Bebop or Rocksteady? It's that kind of they've got a bit of a mutant alien energy to them.
Yeah, they do.
They're big and strong and violent and aggressive, but a little bit stupid and a little bit like
they're a bit scared.
Gung-ho.
They're a bit scaredy pants too, aren't they?
Yeah,
a couple of times they're sort of. When they're confronted, they back off or they run for it. Yeah.
And then this great sort of idea that, you take care of the leader and then none of them knows what to do, you know, like it's a cool idea. And they get tricked. This is what I mean. They're a bit stupid, aren't they? They kind of get tricked into doing the deal and then they're being double crossed by Zorg and then they think they're going off to like do their own destiny and then that doesn't pay off for them either. So, and then, you know, Lilu kicks their living butts out, you know, like, yeah, I really liked them. They've got this weird creature effect to them. And that scene in the airport where the couple come up and they're trying to impersonate Korben, and his like face keeps changing a little bit. Like, yeah, I kind of felt for them when I watched it this time. I don't think I felt for them when I watched it as a teenager, but there's a little part of me feeling for them.
You do, particularly because I think they did have some sort of a cause that they were fighting for. Yeah. They weren't purely pirates. I mean, that's what they did. They were mercenaries and so forth. But they had some sort of a reason for it. Mm. And at the airport where they're just like, what do you mean? You know, like when the cans are dangerous, they're just wait a minute. And they go, and they turn around and run for it. Plan B, you know.
Just dive into the rubbish.
Pull guns,
to get away from
spray away and then jump in the trash,
I don't know, something kind of fun about them that I think I liked.
And as I said, you could imagine if there was further series or a TV spin-off or something.
Yeah, they
would be great characters in there because you'd have to have one of them as one of the main protagonists, one of the good guys.
Yeah,
he would make such a good character there, where he's still all up for his cause, lost cause, whatever it is, like their home world. I don't know if it doesn't really explain it in there, but he'd be all strong for that. So you'd have that. He would have some virtue and valor. Mm. So you could go, he's a good person because he wants his species to succeed at something.
It is said that the humans have. I think it kind of was implied that they kind of came to Earth and they've been annihilated. Like it's like they haven't been given refugee status or anything. Mm. There is a moment in the film where they do say that. Yeah. Have you been up to anything yourself, science fiction related, or?
I'll tell you something that is a bit science fiction. I've got solid bike tires.
Oh, hello.
This is new technology.
Right.
It's old technology, but made new.
You filled it with sand.
No. There's this company that makes they're their research and development was in the rubber that you make the bottom of shoes.
Okay.
You know, like you look at your running shoes and you get like that sort of hardy,
Thick layer of
tough,
rubber.
foam stuff within the rubber sole. So that's what they made. But they went and made bike tires out of it. And the reason for that is because my back tire in particular just always getting punctures.
Yeah, right.
Always deflating. Like if I get 2 weeks without a puncture, I'm happy. Like I've gone through so many. So now I've got solid bike tires on.
Nice.
They roll a little bit slower and they're a little bit rougher. But I run, racing slicks anyway, so I get 120 psi. They're quite firm. So when I'm riding it, I don't really notice it, but I ride with such confidence now, knowing that all that glass and those rocks and all that shit, not going to touch me. They're guaranteed for 8,000 kilometers.
Wow.
So they're going great.
Cool. Really cool.
I know. I think that's a bit of science fiction now. Why have I not known about these things earlier?
Why aren't all tires just that? You know what I mean? Like, why are we bothering with this whole air?
Well, yeah, like give a few
Never get a flat.
A few more iterations of this, and you won't need it. But I guess the air ones are, as I said, slightly better rolling speed. So if you're going to race, you wouldn't race in these things.
No.
But I'm riding either to commute or to exercise.
Yeah.
And if I'm exercising, and I think they reckon it's about a 5% greater rolling resistance. So it's probably similar to like a mountain bike tire versus my slicks that I normally run. Or maybe not quite as bad as a mountain bike tire. But I'm doing it for exercise. So if it's a little bit harder to pedal, okay, I get a little bit more exercise. Yeah. Fine. It's a win-win to me.
That's right.
And when I'm commuting, I've got an electric motor on it, so I don't, 5% extra doesn't make jack difference to me.
You're cheating anyway.
Yeah, cheating anyway. Well, I just wear my work clothes. I just ride it like a motorbike. It's great. And what about you? Anything going on there?
Yeah, well, not, I suppose, science fiction so much, but just in terms of writing, I got to get away for 4 days and really investigate where I want to go with my writing next. So came up with I've been doing this project where I've been looking at films that have really resonated with me, like ones from my childhood or in recent times, and trying to figure out why I like them so much, or why they stuck with me, or, why they're the kind of things that, you meet someone at a party and you start going, did you ever see? So it's like kind of rewatching them with that question in mind. Is like, what is it about this that tickles me, that makes my, inner child happy, so to speak? Because then the concept, and this came from Andy J. Pizza, is the concept is that then if you watch a bunch of those films or read a bunch of those stories and figure it out, you can probably figure out what you should be writing about, or maybe even just including some of the elements that you like. It might be a scene, it might be music, it might be, when we talk about film, it might be a scene, it might be music, it might be something to do with the way the character is developed, like what we're saying here with The Fifth Element, that you might go, oh, well, hang on, all the characters have some sort of context to them. They have some sort of backstory, and we visibly see that. I really like that. And if that is something that tickles your inner child, then you're a writer, you should be thinking, oh, I should put that in my story. I shouldn't just have one main character. I'm going to have one main character, but all my little characters are going to have a little thing to them. They're going to have a little personality twerk that's going to be revealed, And so that's the idea of it. And I got to go away and spend a bit of time just kind of working through that. And I kind of figured out what I feel are the themes that I like. And then on one of the days, I made myself write a short story that involves those themes.
So I've listened to this same episode of Creative Pep Talk. Yeah. And I did a similar thing because I've noticed I've got this strange thing that I love watching and reading science fiction, and I love fantasy movies, like TV series. Yep. But all the stories I end up wanting to write are contemporary fantasy. So a modern day version, analog of our current world, but with fantastic elements. Yeah. So as opposed to a specifically urban fantasy or anything like this. Yeah. But it's for some reason that's what all of my stories end up drawing me into, is this and varying levels of fantasy or science fiction-y type bits in there, but not pure science fiction. For some reason, I try and think of pure science fiction stories, and I just don't. And so I was wondering about that same thing, and I did a similar one there, and I won't go into all of my bits, but the one overriding theme there, the one that makes me dance with excitement, is stories of philosophically confronting and changing. So that's like, we talk about Pitch Black, which we watched, and I said there's something about that movie. That would be. It just makes it awesome. And one is just that story of Riddick.
Yep.
Where he doesn't. You can't say he becomes a good guy at the end, but you can say that he's confronted something about himself because he sees it mirrored in this pilot woman, and he has that change, and you can feel it, and I love having that feeling. And a lot of these stories that then I want to end up
feeling that you need to get to. Right?
Yeah, these writing that I want to write in this contemporary fantasy, I for some reason find that to be the vehicle which brings in this philosophical. I can better explore the philosophical side of that, usually with some sort of either quasi-religious or nihilistic taints, without having to be explore science fiction or develop a full medievally fantasy world. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, I've been fine. I found it.
What was it? One theme or one idea?
The one thing I think is underdog. I like an underdog that succeeds. So I know that essentially you could say a lot of stories, like even this one, Bruce Willis's character is a bit of an underdog in a way in the environment they put him in. But what I mean by underdog is the films that I've been looking at, they all do have the key character is really a real underdog. So they're really up against it from the start. And so, and obviously the point of the underdog eventually is for them to succeed, even against all odds. So that's one of my themes. Yeah.
Cool.
So, but it's funny because then you turn around, and I don't know about you, but my creative process with writing so far is that ideas kind of come at me, in the shower, driving, walking along the beach, in a forest. They hit me in the head. If I was talking to maybe you, we could be doing this, and suddenly my brain starts. It's almost like, bam, here's an idea for a story. Whereas once I realized my couple of themes, because I've got kind of three that I'm circling, it's kind of like, oh, well, hang on, how do you write a story like deliberately about that, And so I did go through that process, and then I've talked to my wife a bit about that, and she's like, well, maybe you still accept the ideas that like whack you in the head, but then you mold them. Like you evolve them, because you do, like, even the ideas I get, I mean, you have to work hard to make them a finished story. So her suggestion, of course, was you take that as an inspirational point, and then you have your theme that you might want to work into it, or if it works with it, or you put it in there somehow.
Well, and I think the interesting thing that you're saying there is about having that idea and moving it to the theme. And that's why I've recently finished writing this Hansel and Gretel retelling, which is a bit of a horror, which is almost an inverse. And I found it's quite difficult because in this one, it's we start off a low point, and the characters reach this point. The midpoint is actually where they think that life could be good, that they could help people and be nice.
Yeah.
But then they go, nah. And they go down the bottom, and they end up in the shit further down than when they started.
Yeah, right.
In a worse position and worse people.
Right.
And it was quite hard for me to write that, but I really wanted to make sure that I did write it because I haven't written something like that. And
interesting.
It was while I was writing that I did this process, and I realized that that's why I was having so much trouble, is because I wanted these characters to see some ray of hope and to attain some epiphany.
Yeah.
But I had to not have them do that. It was like, it's like purposely not sneezing when you really have a tickly nose,
Yeah.
Very hard.
And that's we are, like you and I have talked a lot about someone like Blake Schneider, and we've talked, as a story structure, writer, teacher. and there's other things like this. And when you talk about a lot, all these stories that are out there, at the end of the day, everyone wants the protagonist to kind of win, but you get these stories which can be very powerful when the protagonist doesn't win, right? Like when they don't succeed. So even though I'm saying I want the underdog to succeed, you can think of these movies where, like the anti-hero story does work, doesn't it? Like when it's done properly. Donnie Darko is a perfect example of that. Like such an amazing movie, and you get to the end and he is an anti-hero. So it's like, but you imagine it for the writer, that could be like heartbreaking.
Oh, but that really satisfied me.
I know, extremely satisfying. That movie's amazing.
But it is exactly that. He had an epiphany moment.
Yeah.
Where he chose to do something different. And that's that thing that I like, is that he grew and he went through these things, and then and then he sort of seemed at peace.
He came at peace.
And that's why it really touched me, is because I was like, it was a dark ending.
Yeah.
For sure. As you said, but it was a dark ending twist on what I like, or what draws me in. Because that was one of those movies where I was going, why did I like that movie? Like it's nothing terribly exciting happens in it. It's got a bit of humor in there. It's a bit dark, as the name tells you. But yeah, anyway, that was it. It was that moment where he goes, aha, I know what I have to do. And then we get these flashes through everyone's life and how it rolls out by him changing the future or the present or the past or whichever way it is.
I guess when you really think about it, it still resolves his arc, doesn't it? So that's the funny thing. The writer's done a really great job there, because you've gotten to his resolution.
Are we able to do Donnie Darko on this? It is. It's about time travel.
Yeah, it's time travel.
And it's psychology.
Yeah. No, we could do Donnie Darko.
I think we're going to have to.
That probably is a classic.
That's a classic for sure.
Okay, so we probably should get stuck into a little bit about the plot and a couple of things technically, I think. Otherwise, we'll be here all night or day, wherever you're listening to us. So, as we said before, it's directed by French filmmaker Luc Besson, who also wrote it, along with Robert Mark Cameron. I've said his name 3 times differently now, I think. And Luc apparently came up with this story as a teenage boy.
Yes.
So he kind of like came up with the story concept when he was quite young, and stuck with him, and he's developed it along the way, and ended up making this great film. We have Bruce Willis, which we mentioned a lot, Gary Oldman, Ian Holm plays Cornelius, Milla Jovovich, which we all know, and as Surrey's been saying, this was her sort of big first film. Chris Tucker, who I just think, he probably, to me, it's like Oscar. This thing's like, not as, what is it? Assistant Oscar?
Well, it's funny because from that midpoint of this movie,
supporting actor, that's what it's called.
He does join in. He's right there at the end.
He's right there, yeah. He's all the way.
So it's a funny add-on that he got added into it.
It is, but it's just, his performance is absolutely amazing, I reckon. I think all actors need to see Chris Tucker in The Fifth Element. But he had license. I reckon he had a lot of license. I'd love to know more.
Luke had initially approached Prince.
Yeah, right.
And you can see those sort of outfits and stuff. Yeah. But apparently Prince thought it was too effeminate, which you're going, like, Prince has never been afraid of looking like Ruby Rod, really. Like, you see some of his video clips and stuff, he's wearing these, body suits, and he's very sexual, but not in an overbearing masculine way, but nonetheless still masculine. Like, it's weird. But, Chris Tucker, totally took it.
So, we have the opening image. We're fast traveling through space till we arrive at Earth. And then we have this massive alien spaceship.
Well, this is really cool. Because this is not the first time I've seen this film. So I'm watching it now with a joy watch, or trying to extract as much out of this film as I can. I know it came up. It's a very typical science fiction starting, isn't it? Like, come through space, come to Earth. Earth is at the bottom, and then the camera rotates, and so Earth seems to slide up, and so it's like this weird. You get this angling effect, and then the alien spaceship comes along. And I was looking at that thinking, is that like our little hint that this movie is going to be a little bit skewed? Because we didn't have the typical Star Wars start where the spaceship flies in overhead and over the planet, but it rotated us so that you had to kind of adjust your view or your angle at which you were viewing the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then then shortly thereafter we see the Pingu characters. Being a French film, it would be Pingu.
Yeah, that's right.
Come waddling out, and you can't think, okay, this is like a 100% serious film when you see the aliens modelled like that. So anyway, that was what really struck me with that opening. You're making me see these technical things now and angles.
It felt a bit Space Odyssey, but again,
yes,
the way that the opening of like flat, fast, going over all rocks and stuff in space, like where the point of view of the spaceship, I presume. But then, like when it got to Earth, it slowed and it rotated. That deliberate rotation felt a bit Space Odyssey.
And the star baby at the end of Space Odyssey is sort of facing Earth.
That's
like
right.
That.
So it's kind of a bit similar. Anyway, we jump down onto Earth and it's Egypt 1940. There's a boy on a donkey. He kind of arrives at this old. It's not a pyramid, but it's like a temple or something. Kind of stands out. There's an archaeologist and that's not the right word. Archaeologist. What am I talking about? And there's also his assistant, an artist, and he's drawing from what he is talking about, and he's kind of doing the old Indiana Jones with a little kind of digging out the wall and
he's reading the thing. Light, Aziz,
the light. And he's like a poor little boy falling asleep with a massive mirror,
and
which made me think of In Paradox because, as Ahmed said, well, we used mirrors to get some of the lighting going,
get the light down inside.
Yeah, I had a little laugh about that. A separate thing, and he ponders. He's talking about the inscriptions or the diggings on the wall, and he's saying there's something about, this central character and it stands out. I think he even mentions like the fifth, there's five or something.
Here's the 4 elements around a fifth element.
Elements, yeah. So
title of the film.
And then this priest enters and he tries to poison them because he believes they know too much. And with that, a shadowing effect comes over the whole temple. As is light, the whole place illuminates,
and there's big spotlights. Very good to these. Very good.
So the archaeologist is just kind of in his own little world when everyone else has kind of noticed that this spaceship has landed.
Poor Luke Perry is scratching away.
He's scratching away. He's freaking out. And again, what I said earlier is true here. Like the Pengus come down, but we just sort of see enough of them, but we don't see all the details and. They're kind of waddling down, and they're really big and bulky and
a little bit asymmetrical too.
Yeah, they've got spikes.
Spines are not symmetrical. I noticed that. I thought that's a nice little touch.
And the aliens do arrive, and they're called the Mondo Shawans, I think, is what we've been going with. And they have one of them out of his finger comes a special little key, which opens the wall, and the archaeologist is kind of shocked by all this because, obviously he thought he was going to be the world expert of this fifth element thing. And they just, with their eyes, do they kill him? Or
no, I don't. They couldn't.
I don't think they killed him because, their
whole purpose is to preserve life.
Yeah.
So you got to think they just sort of gave him a bit of a 99.
I just like how one of the Mondashawans kind of looks at the other one and then he's like, okay, and zaps him with a bit of brain power or whatever it is. And they enter this other room, and this is what I was saying before about they say to the priest that the elements are not safe on Earth anymore, and because war is coming. And it's a good question. Is it World War One? Because it is 1914.
I got the same feeling you did. Was that it was an intergalactic space war? But there's a bit of a confrontation there where Billy, the Luke Perry's character, he's
can't handle it.
He's just fresh off 90210, and he can't handle it. He sort of freaks out a bit, but they and he fires. It doesn't do much, but the doors start closing, and the slow as all get out sort of penguin dude shuffles forward, and then tells the priest, "Do what you're supposed to do. We'll be back in 300 years."
Yeah, and he puts his hand in the door.
Through. Key gets out. Priest grabs the key. Ha! I've got the key. And then we cut away to 300. I don't think they had to say 300 years later. I think we kind of got the idea that they were in space. And because they said we'll be back in 300 years. Yes. And then we cut to space and there's people doing stuff. You think, Was that one of those film ones where we go, we better say 300 years later?
Just to be clear.
Just to be clear that this isn't like, 150 years.
And there's this pretty Star Warsy modern military spaceship and, full military space crew.
Oh, yeah. And it comes in from the planetary alignment symbols on the wall.
Yep.
And then we see the electronic versions of those on the displays.
It's cool. There's some cool details in there, like the guys flying the ships. There's like they got wires in there coming out around their
I like
head
that. It
and
looks
ears.
like cooling.
Yeah.
They look like I've got an air conditioner that one of these split systems.
Yeah.
That comes out of the wall, and the pipes that carry the cooling
that's very
fluid
true.
are connected onto the compressor with that same connection. So I always got the impression there was like this cooling cap to keep their brain cryogenically cool, like maybe they're cyborgs or something.
Yeah. And there's guys behind them in sort of like yellow fluoro zones of the ship.
Yeah, the
controlling things.
The skipper dude.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's some really nice detail actually. If you're really into those kind of science fiction details, they're there. And we're pretty quickly learning that there's this growing black matter. And we cut from the spaceship where this general is kind of running the show back to New York, UN president of the world, I think.
The United Federation.
Yeah, whatever it is. And they're talking about this growing black matter. And of course, the general, good old generals, what does he say? He says that great line, I think it's best to fire first and ask questions later, And so the priest part that we were introduced to the priest, Cornelius, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And he is there at the UN, and we get a very cool little glimpse of his belt is the 4 elements. So we know he's like one of these priests. And he speaks up and says, don't fire because this thing is evil.
Yeah, evil begets evil.
Yeah, so he's kind of giving them the warning, but good old soldiers are like, nah, let's fire. And they fire a pretty good round of bombs.
220s.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. Xeon 220s.
Xeon 220s. And then the evil black mass grows a bit.
Yep, so they fire their 240s or the 260s and the big spread of them.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't affect it. It grows
more.
big. And then the guy says, what do we have that's bigger than the 260? I can't remember if he says 260 or 240, but nothing, sir. Oh. Yeah, like...
And they're just literally like, there's a great moment, which is very Event Horizon, which is about the same vintage of this film, but it's he just stares at the growing black mass, doesn't he? And then the president's like, okay, well, get out of there, back away. But he just stares, and we get this like, he's getting black ooze or blood.
Black ooze coming out from under his hat.
Yeah, coming out from under his hat as he's just sort of obsessing over this heaving black ball. When you put it that way, it sounds a bit sexualized. So we cut from that, and obviously it ends in disaster. Really, we don't actually see it, but we see that it's coming towards the general. We have Major Bruce Willis wakes up, an alarm.
Yeah, there's an alarm. It's going off, and then
he's in his little dodgy apartment.
Says, "Yeah, have a good day," and then the 5 cigarettes come down.
Yeah.
And says, "I'm going to quit." And
the cat's meowing outside his door.
He literally saves the cat, brings the cat in, and treats it nicely, so we know he's a nice guy. And he's looking very Bruce Willis-y.
Picks up that phone.
The phone, he has a comment, and the conversations on this phone are great.
With Finger, the guy he's talking about is called Finger.
Finger, is it? Yeah, there's great exposition where he's talking about he's due in for this 6-monthly overhaul, and how many points do you have left in your license? I got at least 50. Yeah, whatever, okay, and make sure.
And he's talking about like he only wants the guy's going. Why don't you get some women in your life? He's like, I only want the one, but she's not here.
It's just basically an info dump, but it's entertaining because of course the cab person he's talking on the phone, we never see this guy.
No,
he's a character.
Yeah,
the way he talks and the casual banter they have is evocative.
Yeah, so and then this is where he gets ready for his day, and he's offered a job, isn't he, from this guy? Do you want a job doing something?
Did he go do? I thought he was just going to do.
Yeah. Anyway, so he's and then that's where he opens the door, and this tweaker is there with this huge gun. I can't remember.
Weird gun with spikes on it.
Spikes and he's also got a weird hat on.
He's got
and he's just like shaking.
The photo of the hallway from the point of view of the camera, so that how long have you been saying this? Like, just give me the cash, give me the cash, give me the cash. I remember my friends and I, we used to do this like when we're out at a pub or whatever, buying a round of drinks. And say, what do you want? Just give me the cash, give me the cash. And then, of course, take it. I don't need it. I still say that to my kids now when they ask for something. I give it to them. I said, take it. I don't need it. Yeah, I love it. And he does a little dance. This is where we're establishing Korben's credentials as a good guy. Because, he says, oh, it's not working. You got to press that button.
You got to press that button.
And then, of course, I think he just disarmed it.
He did. Yeah.
And so he points the gun at him and says, hand it over. And he treats him nice. He goes, okay.
He pulls the gun off him and he's got this whole range of guns, which presume that he's constantly people are trying to rob him.
He's confiscating guns. And so he's a good guy because he confiscates guns and says, look, just go away and look after yourself. And he has a bit of a chuckle about it and the guy sort of scurries off. Yeah. And so right there, you go, oh, he's a good guy. Like, he's tough. He knows what he's doing. He's not afraid. But he's not. Because he could have easily, there could easily have been the case where he's like a violent encounter and he goes punch, bang, crash, and defeats him, establishes his credentials as a really tough guy.
He knows he's tough and he doesn't need to really deal with.
But this was really good. I really liked it. It spoke well of the character. You wanted this character to do well.
So we cut to the fact that now the Mondosians are coming back and they want to enter Earth's airspace or something, zone or whatever. And so there's like some sort of security fence perimeter, and which I think, that's pretty good technology to have something like that.
How massive is that thing? Because it was out past Jupiter, or I don't know. But it was cool. It's like stoplights, and then they turn green, and the ship flies through, and they turn red again behind it. Yeah,
so they do, the president or whatever, they allow them in. But unfortunately, those pesky, what are they bloody called? Mangalores come in. I wrote it the wrong way around. Yeah, they come in and they attack and shoot the living shit out of the...
And it crashes.
And it crashes into
and
somewhere.
You can see on the priest has told the president, oh, look, every 5,000 years these guys are going to turn up. Yep. And then they turn up and they're like, yes, okay. This is going to, we need something to help us here. And then they just smash.
They smash, bam, all dead. Everyone's dead.
Yeah.
So we then are introduced to Zorg, who communicates with these aliens that shot them down. And he's told that they're all annihilated. So he's happy about that. And it's great. It's a great old Inspector Gadget kind of thing. We don't see Zorg from front on. We just see him from behind. And he's got a bit of a weird shape to him. And he's very clinical in what he's said to these aliens. So we know this guy's a badass.
He's a bad guy.
He's just a bad guy, right? So it's great. I loved it.
He's got the high collar.
He's got the high collar. Weird. You can see he's got a weird shaped head. Like, this guy's badass. We're not even seeing who he is yet. And straight away, Gary Oldman at his just... I love when he does this kind of stuff. And then we get to this, that the American, whatever it is, the UN. I'm just going to call it the UN. They've gone to the wreckage. And
they've got a survivor. We've got
some survivor. And
they're rushing with the gurney, the floating gurney, and it's just like a hand.
It's just a hand holding onto a rail. And the general guy is saying to the scientists, like, this is it. Like, this is ridiculous. And the scientist's like, no. You got to understand. We ran some tests, and this is perfect DNA. Like, there's something about this. And I like this because they're all rushing in, and he just drops a little bit of exposition that we talked about before, just to explain it to the audience.
And the nonsense he says is like the normal human DNA has 40 globulins or whatever it is, and you go, okay, and then you expect him to say, but this one has got, you expect him to say like 43 or 41, but he says, this has got over 200,000. You're like, holy crap. Yeah, like 40 is all that's required for a complete human. This one's got 200,000. You're like, okay, that's almost like it's been engineered.
Yes.
And it's considerable. And of course, it's never really explained as to whether this fifth element was engineered.
Yes. Yeah, no, we don't know.
Yeah, takes us through to the growth chamber, which is a cool little sequence.
This to me is like the science in this film is this growth chamber thing.
It's like 3D printing a person.
That's exactly what I said, yeah.
And they point out, here's the DNA of a normal person. You see the double helix. We all know that. And here's this organism, and there's like so many
DNA
helixes all wrapped up. Yeah. And it says, it's just like there's so much more. It's almost like this is the perfect organism. And it's 3D printing this human in a non-standard way. So it was like, little clippers clipping off little cross sections.
Yeah. They went through and they did that, and I really like this because it's kind of like they built from that bone layer, and then you saw like a computer screen of the bones, and the computer screens are quite crude, whereas what was going on in the machine was really like sophisticated. And then it's like the layer of veins and muscles.
I love the way it came on. It was like, have you seen those machines? They're like knitting machines.
Yes, yeah.
And like a sock making machine. Yes, that's what it looked like. It was like spinning around and just threads of meat going onto it. Yeah, it's great.
And you saw shots of like pump and ooze and the fluids and stuff, which is cool.
I thought it was a bit Tim Burton-esque.
Yes.
You're expecting like weird big plunges. And
he does also then say, they close it and they go, what does he say? He's like, expose it to ultraviolet light so it will grow skin.
I love this quote. I wrote it down. We're going to bombard it with slightly greasy solar atoms.
Yeah.
To evoke a defense response. Slightly greasy solar atoms.
What the hell is that?
I had a look to see if there's any such thing.
Yeah.
And there is space grease, greasy carbon.
Yeah.
Which is to say, carbon can form into a couple of different forms, like a crystalline form, or like a hydrocarbon form, which is like greasy form. But no such thing as slightly greasy solar atoms.
Do you know what's also, what's cool in these moments is that scientist is sort of stepping us through some of those things, right? Like he's explaining it, but all the other scientists are also, again, going back to giving context to characters. Did you notice in this scene, all the other scientists also arced up at different steps? So he didn't give them more stories, but they all kind of proceeding with UV, like they all had like a role to play. And at the same time, the general is kind of like mouth open, gawking at what the hell is doing this. But for the whole process to happen, it's his security clearance, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's never seen this happen before, or it's just that it's such a strange, aliens being blown out by other aliens.
I get the feeling that he's never seen it because he is portrayed as not being super sharp.
No. So it's, but it was interesting, wasn't it? Because I found that it was a cool mix of all the scientists were very cool and calm and collective, and the lead scientist was really like excited about it all, like let's grow a human. What is this thing? It's perfect. And like as you're saying, like greasy soul atoms. So, and they open it up, and we have a naked Milla Jovovich.
I love that they say thermal strapping, and it's just conveniently straps that go across the breasts and the groin.
Yeah. And they're bloody hot like that. I tell you what, they are real. That is a good outfit, isn't it?
That's why they're called thermal.
Like that's a bit of a dream outfit. What they wrapped her in. Don't think about offering her clothes.
Well, the guy then he pulls the card out and he walks up and teases her with it and says, you got to start learning English pretty fast, or you don't get out with this thing. And she punches through,
smashes through.
Well, she does some sort of weird sort of stare at him, then growls a bit and punches through and grabs the pass and lets herself out. And runs for it.
Now, you got to remember, at a pretty similar vintage, and those that are listening can let me know if I'm right or wrong, but Species is at a pretty similar time, isn't it?
I'm trying to remember that.
I think that might be 97 or 98 as well. And again, here you've got like a really strong, powerful woman. So I just kind of connected it then, thinking about Species, that the fact that she's kind of an alien on the loose, a strong, attractive woman, So this film was kind of, to me, I remember, maybe it actually came out before this, because I sort of felt like, is that where this is going to go? She's going to be, a bit of a killer on the loose or something, So that's something that's also a film that we should look at. So she does the unspeakable in a cool way so she smashes out of the glass. She then is confronted by all these guards are running into the room, and she looks down the corridor and there's more guards coming, and you think that, like, I honestly thought, like, oh, she's going to run and, like, do a somersault and a flip kick and all this sort of stuff. She just turns around and jumps through the wall. She smashes through into the vents, which is pretty cool. And then she comes out and she ends out on the ledge of this, like, really tall building.
Police are chasing after her. This is where the cops sort of point the gun and say, okay, stop where you are and come back here and let's make it easy. And then she just
come on, love.
She sees them and then just walks off around the corner and they go, they're clearly disappointed. We've got to work.
Yeah. We might need a flying car squadron, or something.
Flying unit,
Yeah, and so they come around and there is a flying car and they're speaking to her. And they try to identify her and she's not on the system. And she is standing on the ledge and there's a really cool train that comes down the side of the building.
Yeah, massive carriage of some sort rattles down.
Yeah, which shows you that we are really high.
And big.
And big, yeah.
I think she swan dives off and she just leaps off.
She leaps off when the police are asking her, like, your time's up. And I still remember seeing this at the movies, and when I watched it again, now it's a really nice moment of how she jumps off and she's falling and she kind of like misses traffic. And she maybe, I don't know how far she actually falls. It's not huge what she falls, but it's a really cool moment, isn't it? Because the camera's dropping with her. And you can see the complexity of what we were talking about before with, let's all be flying cars, it'll be okay, we won't be in peak hour. But when you see it like this, it's like, no, there's still peak hour in the sky.
It just becomes three-dimensional.
It just becomes three-dimensional, And she crashes into a taxi.
Taxi of...
Major
Korben Dallas. Korben Dallas, and he's immediately concerned. Well, he manages to pull the taxi over because he almost crashes. And he looks back and says, any survivors? And she pops up and says, sort of can't talk English. And he's...
But did you... sorry. I was just going to say, did you notice that it's a mirror scene to when she's reincarnated and the general walks up and he goes, you're gonna be able to learn how to communicate, hun. Like if you want to get on in this world, right? So he's very confrontational. And then she's like, and smashes out, right? And uses him to smash her way out. Here, Bruce Willis's initial reaction when it's just him and he actually says, oh, is everyone okay? Is there any survivors?
Yeah.
But it's through a glass thing again.
Yeah.
So again, she responds to that. Isn't that like very thematic of the film where we're going in this film, which is like love is the essence of humanity, or like the good part of humanity. Like he responds to her not like,
what the hell have you done to my car?
Or threatening. So, oh, look, you need to come over to my side if you want this to go well.
Yeah.
Whereas he's actually like, first of all, is anyone okay? Is everyone okay? You're right. And she responds to that.
She does, and so do the police.
Yeah.
The police turn up and he goes, oh dear, here we go. Okay, well, I guess I've got to do what they say because he's only got 1 point left on his license.
Yeah.
And the cops pull up and they connect a rope across, and then she sees the please help sign. Is please help.
Yep.
Please help.
Well, you're doing that really well.
She's tremendously cute saying it, and I'm pretty sure
very childlike.
Yeah, the main reason they had her not speak English, I think, at the start was so that she could be seen more vulnerable.
Yeah,
and,
extremely vulnerable.
Cute.
Yeah,
and it worked.
He denies.
We all
pleads. He denies. She pleads, and then he goes up.
We all wanted to be saved.
Yeah.
And then he goes, oh, stuff it. And he goes, takes off. And we have a police chase.
Good old chase.
And they eventually, she's not tied in. So she bangs around a bit in the back.
Yeah.
And
there's just ducking and weaving all through the city in different ways.
And the music in this, music in this movie is just, it's really unusual. It's because the music during this chase scene was not a fast banjo playing or anything like that.
No.
It was sort of Middle Eastern sounding.
It
music.
was, yeah.
Algerian, apparently, if I looked it up, right? And they end up hiding in the fog.
Yeah, the fog.
After some shooting and some bits and pieces. And she's been rummaging around there loose there as he's battered her. And so he climbs in the back and says, "Are you all right? What's going on?" And she wants Priest Lito Cornelius. So off he goes to take her to the priest.
Yeah, and he shows the priest. The priest is like, "Well, I'm not interested."
Weddings
in
are down the corridor.
Yeah, like, I'm not interested in this random woman. But he shows her the tattoo of the fifth, and he faints. And when he reawakens, he explains that she is really important to the survival of humanity. And, look after her, wake her up gently. It's a little bit of an odd thing, like wake her up gently. And he decides to go in for a kiss, which is a little bit... It is a little bit weird, that. But,
it is the Sleeping Beauty, what do you call it, trope.
What is good is that then after the kiss, he regrets it. And he actually, literally badgers himself about kissing her.
He says, I shouldn't have done that.
Because he kisses her and she pulls the gun on him and, threatens him and stuff. And then later, a couple of scenes later, he's regretting it, which is nice.
She says, never without my permission.
She tells them that the stones were stolen. And
the priest says, the stones are gone, that they were, and she says, and we're getting a bit of cut now between Zorg and this, and it's done a couple of times in this film, which is always very cool, where it's, the priest says something like, what's happened to the stones? Yeah. And then we get the Mangalores of rock up with a case to Zorg. He says, we've got the stones. And then there's, they open the case and it cuts to the priest. What do you mean there's no stones there? And Zorg is like, there's no stones here. And they sort of have this intercutting, which is very cool.
Yeah, and that was one of the technical things I want to come back to later, definitely. So Zorg does meet with the aliens and to get the stones. Stones are not there. He then they have a standoff. He's got these special powerful guns that do everything, which was pretty cool. Before that, you sort of they shoot, they fire. The good old fashioned staple gun, and then he explains that they're always interested in the blinking light. And so it's you just see them playing with the gun and one of them pushes the blinking light.
In the background, someone's shoots a net over his buddy.
Again, I feel for them, they're just not quite bright enough. And they do explode. So Zorg's well, buck them, move on. And Zorg then is saying that, well, I need to meet with that priest, Cornelius, for, to find out where these stones would be. And this is where you talked about one of your favorite scene is that they have this very visual discussion where he pushes the glass off the table and Zorg is making the point that destruction leads to more life. And, in his part, the broken glass, all these robots come out and they sweep. It's very Wall-E, even though, Wall-E comes years after this film. But, there's a sweeper and there's a vacuum and there's a buffer. So cute, all those things. And then he starts choking on that cherry and the priest then has the upper hand of saying, well, hang on, you need another person in your life for moments like this. Otherwise you die like an old cat lady in an apartment and they find your naked ass skeleton body 10 weeks after...
Well-fed cats.
Yeah, with some well-fed cats, 10 weeks after you died, because you didn't have anyone in your life. And so there's a cool debate there, isn't there? And Zorg is just basically saying that, well, I want the stones, give me the stones. We then cut to Zorg main henchman. I didn't quite get his name right down, but he I reckon this is really nice. This really is a 90s thing, isn't it? It's put a camera on a cockroach.
Yes,
put a little tiny camera, and so this cockroach camera has been controlled,
driven in there by him. Yes,
yeah, and it's again, it's so 90s, like the cigarette thing. It's hard to explain it, but it reminds me of Tank Girl, it's just kind of all a bit it's It's just it's total 90s.
It's again,
just 90s. I don't know. How can I explain it?
We've got this incredible technology of restructuring a human and interplanetary transport, faster than light travel.
But it would make sense to put a camera on a cockroach.
But then he has and it's not even a terribly small camera either.
No,
it's not. It could have been a robotic cockroach, but it wasn't. It was a real cockroach.
It was a real live cockroach. I think that's it. That's what makes it 90s, is that you would imagine if it was 300 years in the future, so it's a couple 100 years from now, because 1914, it wouldn't be a cockroach. It'd be a robotic nanobite thing, right?
Mm. A little drone.
A drone thing, yeah.
Yeah, like a little fly or something.
Yeah.
But the thing I love is, so he overhears that's on the opera, the diva Flava Laguna has got the stones on the Floster Paradise. Yeah. And so he hears that, and then just after the president says that, he sees the cockroach and slams it with his shoe. And I love this little scene. It shows a quick flashback of the guy controlling it, and he's like, his expression on his face, and his headphones go flying off. Like if you freeze frame it, they actually, because they're hooked over like earphone, muff type things.
Yeah.
And then they go straight. It's like they're just sprawling off his head, and his hair stands up on end. Something out of a kid's movie.
It is, yeah.
But it's just
a bit Bugs Bunny, isn't it?
It's the shortest little fragment of it. It was just brilliant, because the whole scene was set up to be a little bit weird like that.
And it goes into a further weirdness, because now we have Bruce Willis. He's having Chinese at his window.
Oh, well, the president says, who we're going to, we need your top man on it. And,
Cut to.
General says, I know just the man.
Yeah.
Cut to Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis is having
and
Chinese.
A letter pops down just at that. So you're going, oh, okay. Oh, I bet that's good luck. No, the last letter I had was my wife's divorced me. The next one was my lawyer running away with my wife.
Yeah.
So I'm not touching it. And he says, oh, I bet you free lunch on this. And he goes, okay, fine. And he opens it and he's like, oh, you lost your job. Like, okay, well, at least I got free lunch. Good philosophy. Yeah, it was quite good there.
It's really cool,
because the expectation was that would be his ticket to this new job.
Yeah.
But no, he just got fired.
Anyway, so that phone rings, and it's his mum. His mum is like just giving him a hard time. Who's saying,
Korben, you don't even think about me anymore. Why aren't you taking me to Flossen Paradise? What are you talking about, Mum? Oh, it's been blaring all over the radio. Like the radio? Okay, they're blaring all over the radio. You won the
all over the podcast, I think.
Yeah, the podcast. That Space Brains have been talking about it non-stop. Which doesn't make sense, because you can stop it or skip forward. No, you can't. You can't skip forward through our podcast.
Anyway, with that, the general rocks up at the door with a female companion and a male companion, and they explain to him about
Iceborg, I think her name was.
And they explain to him about the mission and the reasons. How's that? The reasons why you should be here. Reason number 1. You have all the technical ability of the
every weapon system.
And he drops the paper and it folds out.
Yeah, great big print out paper.
Yeah, it's like a huge. Why would they do that?
Why would you bring that? He knows what he's got.
He's capable of. And why would you print it? It's very 1997, isn't it? But it's cool. And he's like, reason number 2, you're
the most decorated.
That's right. Out of your, platoon, basically. And reason number 3 is the rest of your platoon are already dead.
Yeah, you're the only member of your platoon. Yeah,
that's such a good thing. And then it gets weirder, because Lilu rocks up, right? And he's like, "Oh, I'm in love with this girl. I've got to impress her." And he they go, "Where can we hide? You've got a 1-bedroom little apartment here." And so he sticks them in the fridge. It's so weird, that, isn't it?
Hits the button and the fridge goes down. There's a shower on top.
Yeah, shower on top.
Which kind of doesn't make a lot of sense, but okay.
But it's nice, because then he opens the door and the priest barges in. So it's not just Lilu. And Lilu doesn't actually even really give a shit about him. Whereas he's infatuated by her. And he wants the mission. He wants the ticket to go on the mission to save the world.
Yeah.
And the Major's kind of, hooked on Lilu and not... and anyway, so he's... he's into that, and then he's like, the police come into the apartment building. Excuse me. The police come into the apartment building, and they're looking for him,
Korben Dallas, and they get up to, because of course Cornelius ripped the name bit off the door to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they don't see the name tag on there, and he says, "Who are you?" "Oh, just a meat favoured popsicle."
But they get to see arms on the wall as well.
Yeah.
Don't they remember that? They do that. They put your hands on the dots.
Yeah, hands on the dots, and then they turn around to the guy opposite, and that's got the tag of Korben Dallas.
Yeah.
Like, we got the guy. Get the cops. They don't want to do real work like
No.
find out his actual address.
This guy like swears at them as well.
Yeah,
Like,
he's a
"No."
punk, isn't he? He's just like he looks dodgy. He looks like a punk, and he's like, "Go blow you" or something like
something
that.
like that.
And then Korben
So they
says,
arrest-
"Bad move, fella." I love the way they just put him in a body bag and drag. It makes a lot of sense, though, doesn't it?
It does. You
there's
can't fight that.
This whole having to get them down on the hands and knees and put handcuffs on and maybe tase them and just whack them in a Kevlar sack, zipped up, and then just drag them.
It's like a snake, right?
And
like you put a snake in a sack.
He's fighting and stuff, but what's he going to do? It's like this. He can't
he's in
rip his way out of that bag.
No. The only thing is you've got to lift. You have to lift like a full heavy man.
They had handles, though, at each corner.
Yeah, I get
They're
that.
just dragging them by handles. It's just like, okay, there you go, done.
Good idea.
Put him in a sack,
on
drag
the
him
police.
off.
So and then what's cool here is you're kind of having all these like escalating. Is then as the police leave the building with who they think is Korben, we have the aliens attack who we thought Zorg had killed. They actually attack and then take that poor guy as a hostage, thinking that he is Korben. So that's kind of like a cool.
And then
cool
Lulu comes out of the self-washing shower and he says, "Oh, I forgot the self-wash. Sorry." Puts a towel around her and
dries her off,
and pulls Cornelius out of the bed where he's been cling wrapped. And then gets the people out of the fridge and is like, "Oh yes."
No, well, before he gets the people out of the fridge,
Ah,
because he doesn't get. Because then he turns and the priest takes and whacks him with that trophy.
Yes.
Yeah. And so then but it doesn't really knock him out, of course, but he like stumbles and he gets himself up. And then that's when he opens the fridge and goes, "Well, I'll be taking the mission." And they're like frozen.
Yes, they've got frost on them, shivering. Yes, I know. There's just sort of moments that are really very serious, and then moments that are almost slapstick comedy, which is, and it's blended. I think because of all the scenery is so sort of over the top, it does blend quite well.
So here we are at this airport scene, which, like you mentioned before, is kind of cool. There's a wall of rubbish, which we have no understanding of, and it's not explained to us. And the priest and his assistant, who I didn't get his name, but the assistant guy,
the young guy,
young guy. The priest says that Cornelius says, you two will go and do this mission, and so they go up to check in, and so he goes up to the air stewardess, sort of puts the ID in, and etc. I've got the ticket, and she's like, "Congratulations, you're going on the trip to Foster's Paradise," or that. And with Bruce Willis kind of comes strutting in. "Oh, no, this isn't the guy."
Yeah, thanks a lot, mate, for coming and helping me out.
Yeah, thanks for coming. He sort of plays it off, and he goes Ray shit scared. And he puts his ID in, and the air stewardess is like, "You're the real one?"
Yes.
Because she's already like a bit doubtful, but that's okay. Check him in. And she also, Lilu is also like, "My smart rider, my
multipass.
my metapass, my
Multipass.
Yes, we know it's your multipass. Multipass.
Yes.
That's a good moment in time, isn't it? And then anyway, so they've checked in and they go off, like they've checked in and that bag. We then get the young punk couple, the real punk couple.
I know.
So 90s punk couple, aren't they?
Yeah, transparent dress. Like, why are you wearing a skirt if it's just transparent? Okay.
Yeah. That's what you did in the 90s.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't wear it.
Yeah, sometimes. But
with you and your nerdy
when
friends.
I went out trying to impress people.
Canberra.
In Canberra.
Geez, what you guys get up into Canberra. You can have fireworks in Canberra.
We wore Hessian sacks down to Fishwick to buy porn and fireworks.
I like the sound of that, but I'm sure it probably doesn't look that much fun when you're there.
No, guys in Hessian sacks buying porn and fireworks. It's a bad combination.
And that's the problem. It's always just lots of guys.
Yeah,
There's no many girls doing that.
Well, you know,
That's the problem.
they left Canberra. They're not dumb.
They leave as quickly as possible. That's why all the men are in politics are men. So in this situation, they would walk up to the porn table and check in.
Yes.
But they've already
Korben
their ID.
Dallas. We've already checked you in. And then she does a little scan and it comes up. She reveals that it's actually one of these Mangalores and it's dangerous. Just wait one more minute.
Yeah.
And the Mangalore dude's about to pop out.
Yeah.
And so they turn around and run for it. Police, yell at them. They say plan B and shoot everyone.
Shoot everyone and jump into the rubbish. That's what they do.
Rubbish. And then finally up walks the
henchman.
Zorg's
guy.
henchman.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Korben Dallas. You're Korben Dallas as well.
Yeah.
We've already checked you on.
We've already checked you in and it's too late actually.
Yeah, closing the doors now.
Closing the doors now.
So he has to report back to Zorg, who's not pleased. And
who blows him apart.
Is that when he talks to Mr. Shadow? He says yes. Yes, and a little black goo comes out of his head. I'm wondering, it was like oil, like black oil? I wonder if that was kind of, hinting at the, oil issues in the 90s,
Maybe.
It was, 91 was Desert Storm, and oil is sort of a symbol of conflict.
You're getting deep there, sorry.
I think maybe it was just black goo because there's evil.
But after this, there's this cool kind of, I'm going to call it a montage. You mentioned it before, the plane taking off and it's the little creatures and stuff. But essentially we have this kind of, 5-minute montage, but it's a little bit bigger than what we normally get with a montage, like quick succession of shots. But we have this the plane taken off. So we get the burning of the bugs, those weird little bugs. We get Ruby is then having sex with an air hostess.
Oh, yes, the landing gear going up and her toes go up in the air.
Yeah, her toes go up in the air. So we have that. We then have the priest is trying to get onto the plane somehow. We have the henchman being exploded, and we have also then Major being put to sleep when he wants to say stuff to Lulu. It's a weird little quick succession, and then the pilot and everything getting ready to go. Yeah, and there were just all these little tidbits of information kind of being thrown in there. This is then when Zorg receives his phone call from Mr. Shadow.
Mr. Shadow.
And don't you like the assistant is doing the
I was about to say,
nails.
Total Recall.
Total Recall.
Total Recall. She's sitting there just playing with her nails.
Constantly changing them. Yeah, that's a total homage to Total Recall.
Absolutely.
Anyway, don't you love the name Mr. Shadow? Mr. Shadow.
The fact that he even has a name.
Why does he have a name?
Don't interrupt me unless it's Mr. Shadow. It's Mr. Shadow.
Okay, quick. Okay. And he's really nervous about speaking to him, which I like. And as he says to him, it's been a bit harder. Going to have to triple my costs. And Mr. Shadow says, money is of no importance to me.
Yeah, well, because he's going to kill everyone.
Yeah, he's going to kill everything.
Dumb old Zorg.
The plane goes into light speed.
It does.
I thought you would have liked that.
It was a nice little thing, and it had lots of rockets on the back, but then a special sort of vertical one lit up when it went to light speed.
Also, just on a little side note, don't you like how they did put them to sleep? It was very much go to sleep. Whereas you take Alien and you take these and Event Horizon, where they're in these tubes and water and fluids.
It's a whole process.
Here it's so much more modern day when we do fly. Not that we've been flying because of COVID, but it's very much an air stewardess. Just sit down, put your belt on, you'll be right. And it's the same here. It's lie in your little chamber. We're going to put you to sleep, so it's all a bit of an experience.
I have a feeling it's a better experience for the hosts.
Stewards,
because they couldn't wait to knock them all out.
No.
She didn't even want to hear what he had to say. No, you're out.
You just off you go. And they arrive, and it's kind of an island paradise, right? I mean, I've never been to Hawaii, but it kind of a bit like that. They put the leis on, and
it's a bit weird. It's like a foreign
planet,
and they're doing this Hawaiian thing. Yeah, but okay.
Yeah, but Leilu's quite happy about it. You know, she's kind of into the, and he checks in, and this sort of, I don't know, she's weird as well. This blonde that like checks Bruce Willis into the hotel room.
Yeah, that was all a bit strange. Like just explaining everything to him.
And it seemed like she knew maybe that he was on a mission or something. I don't know. It felt like she was a bit in. I don't know. It was a bit odd. I think, anyway. But it's explained that he'll be going to the opera with Ruby later, and the opera singer is the one that has the stone.
Yeah, and Leilu sort of hangs out near the diva's place, and one of the diva's assistants comes up and says she'll give you the stones after the show.
Yeah. The opera singer... Rudy and Major, they enter the opera theatre, and it's a great performance there again by Ruby. You know, like he walks around, that's where he introduces the actor that can't hear anything.
The
sports star.
I can't remember what the
laser
name
tag,
laser ball or something.
Laser ball.
It was just massive, no neck, no hair. Just he looked exactly
politicians that you don't want to be.
Yeah, the ministers you don't want to mister with or something.
Something like that. Yeah,
weird sort of thing.
There's that great little moment. Rudy gets kind of annoyed with Major's not giving him much back in return, and he turns to a waiter and kind of rudely grabs the champagne glass and stuff. And that waiter is the alien disguise that we saw earlier, which is cool. And that alien walks to the back room and opens the door and walks in, and it's all of those dudes with guns, and he's like,
Showtime. And he walks Diva Pavlova.
Yeah.
Lava Laguna.
Yes.
And this was Luc Besson's wife.
Oh.
For most of the filming.
Oh, okay.
And then it was Milla Jovovich was his wife.
Right.
For the finishing of the filming.
Right.
So that would have been a bit of an awkward moment, I think.
Well, it's up to Luke.
For 2 years. For 2 years, and then Milla got her movie roles and moved on.
Moved on from Luke.
Yeah, I mean, that was Blue Lady. The what's her name underneath it? I can't remember what her name is. She was a beautiful actress and model as well, but she's done up looking like 8 foot tall, blue, like a Star Wars alien with the bits coming out of it. Now, apparently they hid her away while she was done up, so another cast saw her. So part of their response was actually kind of impressed. They weren't expecting her, because she's not a hugely tall woman. You know, she's like rather moderate sized. So when she came out all blue and really tall, the reactions that people are having of kind of looking up and being impressed were reactions to the makeup and the height she had.
Yeah, right.
She's on these sort of stilts.
Yeah, cool.
And she goes out to sing the opera, and we get this nice musical number, which is diegetic. Brum, brum, brum. Yeah, I can use these words too, dude.
You can.
Okay.
And she is magical, right? She's a magical singer.
A brilliant singer, and there's a woman who actually sang it. Was oh my god, she's awesome.
Yeah. So then while she's performing, Zorg arrives in his ship.
Yeah.
Under the disguise of it needs fixing or something. It's an emergency landing. So he arrives. The aliens then invade the opera singer room, and they kill the assistants. And Leilu sees them, and she has a flashback to the crash. And the crash was caused by those aliens. And so she remembers that and kind of, gets it.
Yeah, and the aliens find a fancy-looking box in the Diva's rooms, and they go, we found it.
Stones.
And then Leilu comes and kicks all their asses.
Yeah.
One after another.
And
using somewhat comical moves at times, which is nice.
And it's a good moment. It's a good, again, juxtaposition of she's kicking their butt while the opera singer is singing her bit.
And the second half of the song comes in, which is all, to sort of a bit of an electronic beat, and it's faster, more exciting sounding. It was very. I remember being quite impressed by it when I was listening to it, watching it the first time through. You're going, "Oh, that's really cool."
Definitely. So Leilu has the stones, or she thinks she has the stones in the box, and Zorg arrives and says, well, "Thanks for killing them all. Great job. Give me the..." And he puts a bomb on the wall, on the door, and give me the stones. And she throws them at him and just flips up into the air vent. He fires away with that gun and, blasts the living daylight out of it and takes off with the stones. The rest of the aliens that weren't that didn't get beaten up by Leilu take over the captain's deck, don't they?
Yeah, and the opera hall.
Yes.
Yeah,
and they go, yeah.
So they launch in there and start herding everyone out.
And Zorg flangs it out. If that's a word, flangs.
He flangs.
He flangs it out with his ship, laughing to the bank. I've got the stone. It's such a good laugh. And then he starts kind of comically crying.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have the stones.
Doesn't have the stones.
So he's got to turn around and come back.
And at the same point, Bruce Willis' character, old Major Korben Dallas, I think we get another one of these cuts. It's like, well, where are the stones?
Yeah.
And Diva says they're in me.
Yeah.
And he goes, what? And she's got a big blasted hole where the aliens shot her. And sure enough, he pulls out the stones while the aliens are still herding and rounding people up. Ruby's there watching him, and the alien comes and points a gun, and Ruby's like, I'm not with him. And then when he gets distracted by Ruby, Korben smacks him out and tells him to hold the gun to his head, and then he's packing the stones into his jacket. And then there's what frightens him, and he shoots. I can't remember what frightens him. Something frightens Ruby. He actually shoots the alien. He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're right." You're like, no. And so they go out, and we get the Die Hard moment. He comes out, shoots a whole bunch of them. He jumps off the balcony into the bar area, and they shoot rockets and
he's just basically outnumbered and outgunned, but he manages to kind of
and he asks
pull some
Johnny, what is it Johnny, the name of the actor?
The actor dude.
And he's deaf and he can't hear. He said, the gun. He's, oh, and he goes this point and rolls a couple of billiard balls over him. He's like, oh, God, you idiot.
That Bruce Willis, being Bruce Willis, uses what he's got and sort of still manages to overcome the powers that are there and shoots the roof, and Ruby falls down safely, whereas the aliens then blow up.
And they haul out and they get to the captain's room, the room where Cornelius is being held, and there's all aliens. There's 5 aliens on the left and 7 on the right, and
one of them's like, we're ready to negotiate. We have hostages. And Bruce says, well, if you take out the main guy, none of them will follow. They don't know how to follow, And he's like, well, we're ready to negotiate. And he asked another guy, the captain guy, do you want me to take this? Trembling.
I've never learned how to negotiate.
And so he turns around and just shoots him dead.
I'm here to negotiate. Boom. Okay, who else wants to negotiate? And they all go, wait, no.
They all drop guns, basically, yeah. And so he's taken back the ship. But of course, he has to go and try to save Leilu.
Yeah, he sees on the cameras, he sees the arm dangling down. They rush on up to the Diva's rooms, and whilst he's pulling Leilu down, the Ruby looks at the bomb on the wall, the numbers counting down, and says, "Oh, what's that?" And he says, "No, it can't be a bomb. If it was a bomb, they've got bomb detectors and all this." And then it says, "You've got 4 minutes to evacuate." And so then there's a big evacuation. And during this evacuation, Zorg has got back, and he's marching decidedly, and just misses the Korben and crew get into an elevator just as he comes out. And in fact, that had to be choreographed because the two of them, Bruce Willis and Gary Oldman, were not on set at the same time.
Yeah.
Bruce Willis finished at week 21, and that's when Gary Oldman turned up. So they were never even... They didn't even see each other the whole film. So they never meet.
Yep.
And he marches on up to the thing, and there's like 5 seconds left on the counter, and he carefully drops like a little weird credit card computer chip thing in, and it stops.
Stops the bomb.
And then a suitcase opens that the aliens left behind, and and this big ornate-looking, almost ritual, religious-looking thing
does, yeah, big chalice
comes up with 5 seconds left, and it counts down. He goes, "Oh." That was very good.
It was cool kind of little twist, wasn't it? And that blows up, so Zorg and the ship are totally destroyed, just as Major has gotten them all onto Zorg's ship and just flying out of the explosion, just in time, just getting them out into space. They notify Earth that the president and that they have all the 5 elements, and so back on Earth they start partying. They start opening the champagne bottle. They're popping it out. They're getting into they're twerking. They're doing stuff, aren't they, Surrey? They're into a good old time. The president,
good old time.
I like this idea that the president's got the champagne bottle and pouring it. Like, it's so not true as it's like going to be a waiter, you know what I mean? But
let's make it rain, boys.
Yeah, let's go for it. So they're all getting it into it, and you can just imagine, Hillary Clinton getting her top off and like shaking it with champagne and having a good old time. And but then they get there's a Surrey in the corner, right?
Yeah, he's more interested in the computers.
He's still watching the computer. He's not watching Hillary and the champagne, and he's sort of gulping. He's gulping away at looking at the freaking... Sorry, get off the computer and come back to humans and have a good old time.
Bad news.
He doesn't want to tell the president, but he tells the president that there's bad news. And we just kind of cut to... So early in the film, we had that one ship that got annihilated, and we kind of cut to the big ball of evil, Mr. Shadow, and there's 3 warships sitting there watching it. And it just kind of like, boom, takes off.
Off it goes
through space. And they start chasing it. And this is what Surrey lets the president know, that, well, it's heading towards Earth and at a really fast pace. In fact, the ships can't keep up with it.
Yeah, the celebration stops.
So the celebration
It turns out it wasn't Hillary Clinton after all.
No, they all put their tops back on.
It was Madeleine Albright.
Back on. The champagne gets thrown away, and they're a bit shocked by it all. So then they relay that information to Major, etc. That, well, this thing is coming. It's going to be here. Well, I can't remember the time frame.
I think that's like 45
minutes or something, right? And so, so I don't know what Bruce says, but he says something pretty funny. He says, "I'll see you in 2 hours."
Yeah, you got 1 hour 57.
That's right.
How long? 1 hour 57. He says, "Okay, I'll call you back in 2 hours."
2 hours, yeah. I'll call you back in 2 hours. That's what he says. Call me back to it. So they fang it back to where we started the film in terms of this thing in Egypt, this temple. And on that journey, Leilu gets really stuck into war. Learning about war, and it scars her. She cries. She's upset. We have all these shots of good old Hitler and the nuclear bomb and some pretty
good old
stuff.
Hitler.
Yeah,
I remember him. It's just it's like these happy memories I have of. No,
never going to be a good time. And the evil ball then gets to Earth, and so it's really closing in, and They get out and they get these elements out, but the priest kind of reveals here that he doesn't really know what he's doing, theoretically.
Yeah, you put the elements out and then the weapon is revealed.
Theoretically.
In theory. You've never done this before. He's like, well, how would he? It's every 5,000 years.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Just so happens it's my turn, when I'm on.
Yeah, okay. But they go put the stones in each of the slots, and then they're like, okay, how do we... Started that, they ask Leilu, what's going on? You got to do your thing. And she says, the little cryptic, wind blows, water is wet, fire burns. Yes, we know that.
Yeah, so they're all going to turn them on.
What was it in Goro? He kept trying to do wood. Yeah. And wood. It's like wood's not one of the elements. Right. And wood. No, okay.
And... Anyway, so the young priest guy is doing, come on, turn on, blah, blah, blah.
A big sigh.
A big sigh, a big breath, and the little kind of thing. He's like, everyone, come out. It's on. Somehow something's done it. What'd you do? Repeats what he did, but it's not enough. And then he
sighs again.
And then it opens another. And so Bruce Willis goes, I think I understand what we need to do, and blows on it properly, and it lights up. So okay, we need to make the element happen. So they go around, and Cornelius wipes his brow and gets a couple of drips of water, so that one connects on.
The young guy chucks some dirt on top of the other one.
Yeah.
And then poor Ruby is
like, well, I don't have fire!
I got fire! Why'd you give me fire?
And good old Bruce digs for that cigarette and brings out the matches where he's got one
match, and he previously took 2 matches to light the one cigarette.
Yeah,
so I also love here the matches were reversed. It had a black head instead of the red one, which was, I don't know, it's just like that weird, you're in the future now.
Yeah.
The cigarettes are mostly filter and a little bit of tobacco, and the cigarette and the matches are black heads, not red heads.
So he does that and lights it up.
Bit of tension, but they light it, don't they? I mean, it'd be a short movie. It'd be a long, disappointing movie if it went out and they just got crushed.
So he goes back to her then, because he needs her to come back to it and getting into it. But she's now like, you guys aren't worth saving. You're not really worth it. Like,
what's
it worth me
it?
fighting?
Why are humans worth saving if all they do is
fight,
break stuff?
Yeah, destruction. Again, that theme, right?
Yeah.
Destruction. So it comes back around. And he tells her about love, and she's like, yeah, but is love really worth it? And so he just really pashes her.
I need you. Why do you need me?
Yeah.
Because I love you.
I love you.
And then she kisses him. So, because it's never without her permission. So,
that's right.
So she can
kisses him.
She can kiss rape him, but he's not allowed to do the back.
But he wanted it. He wanted it.
It was established early on that he wanted it.
He had that short plastic skirt.
He had a lip. He had a lip hard on.
Yeah, he did. Anyway, and so they all come. Suddenly, all the elements come alive from the kiss, and light comes up through them and goes into space. Just as the dead planet
vomits light out of her mouth.
It all comes out of every orifice, I think, and zaps this planet and turns it into a moon.
So people could say, you think a lot of this Lilu woman is like, you think the sun shines out of her ass. No, mostly out of her eyes and mouth.
Yeah.
We couldn't tell. Like, there was this weird rubber orange thing, but mouth and eyes mostly.
I had the thought here, sorry, that you would really like to investigate the idea of what the hell impact would now a dead moon have on Earth.
Much the same as the moon had. It would melt the crust.
It would freaking change
kiss
the whole
life
thing,
goodbye. What you could do.
Anyway, and then we cut to the president is super happy. He's arriving back at that reincarnation 3D printer that we have earlier in the story. He wants to meet Lilu and Major.
This was surely a James Bond, tribute because was it Spy Who Loved Me?
Yep.
In fact, I think there's been a couple where James Bond and one of the women had been in some sort of a tank or a hospital room or a something.
Yeah, and they're having a good old time. So they're back to that science. The president's like, well, I'll give you 20 seconds to get them out of there. And,
I love his hand actions.
And
he's there, and he does his hand actions where they're kind of
gyrating,
bumping together. They're not ready yet.
Not ready yet.
5 minutes.
They'll be ready soon.
Yeah.
And so so that is and we get a little glimpse inside, and they're making out. They're having sex. And that's it. The end. Roll credits.
Roll credits and some groovy music.
There is awesome music in this film.
There was like some good music in the 90s movies. Some bad, terrible music as well. But this movie had
techno, hardcore rock.
Well, it was funny.
Opera,
it's
a real mix in the.
This
90s.
movie here, where they did the second half of the opera, that electronic sort of, it was almost
that was very 90s.
DJ sort of like mixing, ripping of music and stuff. It was a bit weird, but the soundtrack in this is apparently about 90% of the movie was music playing, and I was listening with my Can headphones on. And so I was listening to it. I was going, I never noticed all this music when I was watching the first 3 times I've seen this movie.
Yeah.
But I was watching it like this chase scene through New York, and it was this weird sort of Algerian music.
Really odd music.
And then there was like this other one where there's like this sort of reggae music, and all of the music on it I thought was an odd choice.
Yeah.
But then the closing credits, sort of had that sort of rock electronic sort of stuff going on. That's pretty cool.
It is. So what about the classic ladder? For me, it's coming in number 4 on my classic ladder in terms of, I think people sat down and watched these science fictions in this order that would just teach you everything you needed to know, really, to be honest. So I've got 2001, Back to the Future, Alien, Fifth Element, Event Horizon, Total Recall, Demolition Man, Predator, and then...
Yeah, Fifth Element, Event Horizon. Yeah, I still swear, like, we're probably looking at a special episode somewhere where we...
redefine.
We go into some of these things, because it's a really interesting idea of maybe just we'll go over the classics, as we'll only have a few of them. But yeah, so I'm not doing anything other than alphabetic order for classics at the moment. Still, that's going to change when I've got my vision of how they should be enjoyed.
That's fair enough.
Because there's such a diversity there. I'm conflicted about where I'd put 2001.
Yeah,
because it gave me a real nerd on, but at the same time, it's totally different to like Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Like, how could you have those two side by side?
You can't compare them side to side. No.
But yeah, so I'm getting there.
You'll get there eventually, probably at episode 500 of Space Brains. What about the science? What are you going to focus on with the science?
Well, it's
so many things that you could nerd out on this film on.
Okay, well, here's an interesting thing. And when I was researching this about planets, at the moment, this past year, things that have been left unnoted due to all of the other notable things this year is the rate at which earthquakes are happening is increasing, the gap between them decreasing.
Right.
And if you take this mathematical progression through, 23rd of November next year will be no gap between earthquakes.
Right.
It also coincides with an astronomical alignment of planets. It's complete bullcrap, isn't it? But this is something people have said at various times.
Hey.
And the really odd thing is you say something like, earthquakes are increasing and, people go, oh, that sounds serious. It's like, well, you can actually look it up and find out it's not true. But it's the sort of thing that sounds like it could be true.
Yeah, totally. You had me.
And it also sort of sounds difficult. Wow, really? It sounds difficult enough to look up. Like you go, how would I find that out? I can't be bothered. You can't just Google the frequency of...
people can't be bothered. To be honest.
No, but so interestingly enough, leading up to, in particular, 2012 was like a lot of hype about end of world stuff.
Yeah, 2012. Yep. The Mayan.
But we've also got some various people who put forward ideas, and you may have heard of what's his name, Eric Van Daniken. Back in 1968, he wrote a book, very best-selling book. It was a great book, a fabulous book, one of the best books.
Best books ever.
It's called Chariot of the Gods.
Oh, this one. This chestnut.
This old chestnut. He puts forward this idea that ancient peoples were visited by aliens, which were then
like this idea.
Kicking off religions and so forth. And I can see Luc Besson here, whether he hasn't admitted to it or not, it's a clear inspiration here. This idea that these Mondashawans were gods or messengers of God. They had a religion. They had priests, for crying out loud.
Well, the idea there, isn't it? It's like the Egyptians and the Mayans are good. People have hypothesized that idea that because they have technology that was not around before, and they built things that were like
seemed
science,
amazing.
Seems to be a bit alien, for us in our human history.
Of course, people have demonstrated numerous ways that they've done all these things, which are totally normal.
Yeah.
You get. Cause I've watched the little doco on Charity of the Gods. It's a pretty cool. I mean, it's quite entertaining.
It's a cool idea.
It's quite nonsensical, but it uses these same sort of statements like I started this bit with, which is, they'll say something like, for example, the Acropolis at Athens is made up with these foundation stones that weigh over 2,000 tons. Engineers today don't know how that we could even do that with today's technology. And you go, well, that's clearly false. We've got cranes that lift rated for 5,000 and 10,000 tons. Like, how do you think they shift those big ships and oil platforms? And when we do the mining of, but it sounds like it sounds truish. And you got to go, well, hang on, you can look it up. What's the biggest lift crane? You go, oh, it's 5,000 tons. Okay, so we could. In fact, the thing is that we've never really had to because we've got concrete. So why would we shift 2,000 ton stone block however many miles? They didn't have that choice. And the answer is they did it just with a lot of people and time. They didn't build the Acropolis, in a couple of months like we would today. It took years. Yeah. And those pyramids were not a quick thing either. There was literally years of hundreds or thousands of people at any given time labouring on them. Yeah, it's just, 1,000 people. But these ideas, though, that ancient asteroids, it's quite attractive because it's one of these easy answers. Yeah. Rather than actually having to learn anything, you just see some cave paintings or some pictures which sort of show weird-looking people, and they talk about their gods flying through the sky on chariots, and they go, oh, well, that's clearly aliens. Yeah. And then, how could the Mayans or the Incans or whoever, I can't remember which one it was, make these stone walls with no mortar that fit together so well you can't fit a blade between. And, stonemasons today would just go, well, you just get like another rock and you grind them together and that smooths them, and then you position them, and then you keep doing that until they fit like we do. What do you mean? How did they do it? They didn't use lasers. Yeah. That's really difficult. Yeah. Just grind it. Jesus. Yeah. But anyway, it's been criticized, this whole ancient aliens thing, as being a touch racist in that it's like, oh, how could the Incans have done that? They were so primitive. Only us, but no one's ever gone, well, how did Big Ben get made? Yeah. Well, how did the Romans make the... Maybe they will make whatever, in 5,000 years. They never sort of say, the Romans built Rome with the help of alien technology. No, there was just lots of them. They're working hard and they're smart white people, So anyway, it's that side. But let's move on to this planet coming to crush us. And 2012. So 2012, that date, which is picked out of the Mayan calendar, which has a repeating structure like we have. Yeah. We have a base 10 system for counting, and they had a strange base 8 and base 12 system with repeating. And so, every X, I can't remember what it is, every 8 of one unit would add to 1 of another unit, and 12 of that unit would add to 1 unit of the next higher up order, and they only had that. They didn't have any numbers bigger than that order. And so the Mayan calendar, if you add through the days, it would clock up and would reset. It would end. And so there was this rather than thinking, well, that was just their Y2K bug, where they thought, by the time we get to there, we'll either just start back at 1, which would be, easy, or we'll just add another column onto the end and just add a tick on that, and that'll last us another few thousand years. Whatever. No. It was decided they only did that because they knew that was the end of days. They wouldn't need a calendar after that. Yeah. Which is much like the programmers who only use 2 digits to represent the years. Because they thought, by the time we get to 2000, in 40 years' time, we'll just come up with something. We won't need... this program won't be running anymore. We won't need to come up with any other way of doing this. Yeah. And of course, when we got there, we went, oh, actually, we kind of do need another way, and we came up with a way, so it's okay. Yeah. But so that's where the 2012 came up. Yeah. Is end of days because of the Mayan calendar, and that's kind of nonsense. As you can still, that's just someone making up something. Yeah. And it'd be like, picking up a 2020 calendar and seeing that it ends at 31st of December, going, oh, that's the end. That's the end. No, you get the next calendar. Dude, what are you talking about?
Another calendar.
But to add on to that, then, of course, there's been these ancient aliens theories and this idea that there's been visitors, and in particular, a visiting planet, Planet X, Nibiru. And some guy, he just invented this out of nowhere. He said there's this planet which orbits every, how many thousand years. He just pick a number, and that's what it is. and it swings past, and...
You can't prove me wrong.
does mass extinctions. And there's been a few people who've put this forward. So let me see. There's this woman here, Nancy Leader. She picked several dates for when the world would end because of this. She started May 27, 2003 was the first one. So that would be Planet X, which is roughly 4 times the size of Earth, will come close enough that it will tilt us off axis, stop us from rotating, and kill everyone.
Yep. Well, that didn't happen, Nancy.
For exactly 5.9 days for some... I don't know. It should be... Because we wouldn't have any days if we're not rotating, so maybe no days. And so that would just be terrible. Look, after 2003 passed without incident, she said that it was merely a white lie to fool the establishment. Then she refused to disclose the true date because that would give enough time for those in power to declare martial law. So you got to have the conspiracy thrown in there, right?
Well,
why don't you tell us it? Because if I did, then the people who are in power will mess you up and but we're all gonna die from this anyway, so
yeah.
Okay, well anyway, Planet X was not the only planet. There's also Nibiru, which was that was by Zecharia Sitchin. He wrote a book called The 12th Planet, which I don't know where he got the 12th planet from. We've got 8 full-on planets and one thing called Pluto that we still refer to as a planet, but people argue about that. So he said that looking at Mesopotamian religious texts, he could see that Nibiru was this planet which would come past and every 3,600 years, and the inhabitants of that were the Anunnaki of Sumerian mythology. And they were our first gods, evidently. And so Nibiru, of course, would swing by and kill us all. When was that going to be? 1996. But look, anyways, poor old Sitchin, he died. Never seeing Nibiru come to destroy everyone.
Yeah.
But that's not a problem. In 2007, partly in response to Leader's proclamation, Sitchin did publish a book, The End of Days, which set the time for the last passing of Nibiru by Earth at 556 BC, which would mean, given the object's supposed 3,600-year orbit, that it would return sometime in 2900 AD. He did say that he believed the Anunnaki might return earlier by spaceship, and that the timing of their return would coincide with the shift from the astrological age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius, somewhere between 2090 and 2370. Now, if I remember the timeline of The Fifth Element, it's 2263 that it was set in. So that's in that range there, isn't it? And we can go on. Basically, there have been numerous dates leading up to 2017 and on regarding this planet's just coming out of nowhere. The true science behind this, of course, is that a planet of any significant size capable of interacting with Earth would have been noticed.
Yes.
And in fact, for a while, there was interest thinking that there was another planet that we didn't know about with a large elliptical orbit that would pass through, similar to these claims, because of an observed discrepancy in the orbits of Neptune. Thinking, okay, well, this shift in Neptune's orbit could be explained by a large mass passing through. Turns out they just didn't measure Neptune properly. So better measure, but this was only recent, like the 1990s, where they did better measurements of Neptune and went, oh, okay, we had misjudged the mass of Neptune, and when they put the new, more accurate mass in there, turns out there was no discrepancy. That's actually the way Neptune would orbit based on its given mass. So, again, nothing really there. But there is another theory, which is not so far-fetched, called Nemesis. So if you can imagine a big, massive planet sailing around a long way out further than Pluto. Yeah. So it's not interacting with our solar system's gravitational field. So we're not observing that. But it passes through the Oort cloud, which is a big bunch of space debris, which is where all our comets come from. Yeah. Every, how long does he say? Nemesis. every sort of 26 million years.
Right.
So coinciding with the major extinctions here on Earth. So that's kind of nice. And so it would pass through, every 26 million years, pass through the Oort cloud, dislodging comets and chunks of rock, thus increasing the likelihood that Earth will be showered by comets and blow up.
Yep.
Which is kind of cool, but not terribly dangerous to us because it's a 26 million year sort of orbit. Only problem is, of course, that there's not really any evidence that that's the case and no reason to think it will happen. But, it's...
You never know.
At least it's not something so easily dismissed as, a giant planet coming to smash into the Earth.
No.
Which, until we do get Korben Dallas, then we're going to be in trouble. And there's even more. There's more and more sort of ideas of various comets. There's Planet 9, which is a great big planet. The biggest problem with all of these sort of things is for the planet to be dangerous to us, we would have seen it a long time ago. But it is kind of fun to think of. There were some extra bits, planetoids found, Eris and what's the other one called?
Right.
I can't remember what it's called now. I'm trying to quickly scroll through my notes to see these things. Oh, Sedna. Eris and Sedna out beyond Pluto. But they're only like small chunks of rock. Like
right.
Pluto sort of sized-ish things,
yep.
which are flipping about the place. So they're nowhere near the Oort cloud. They're not dangerous. But there you go.
Yeah.
So that's it. So this idea that we have in Fifth Element of aliens coming down and having a religion, and there being some sort of a big black planet coming to smash us.
Yeah.
They're from real theories. Theories, I use the term theory in a loose sense here. Real bedtime spooky stories that people have put forward of the end of time.
Yes.
And again, it's based on this idea of ancient astronauts. But I do like the idea of ancient astronauts, and it does hold water insofar as you could well imagine if aliens were able to travel through the planets.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be hard to imagine that they could have passed by Earth at some time during our early formative years.
Yeah.
Even if just to go, they're nice, catalogued, move on. And again, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. I mean, some, aeroplane flying through the sky, seen by some primitive Sumerian person who's like tending his Sumerian goats, I assume. They've got goats in Sumer. That's probably more popular than that. Would be going, that's something... That's god. Magical. That's a god or a monster or something. Yeah. So you can kind of imagine it, but there's no need to evoke these things to have deities. I mean, people form religions now without any particular reason except they had a feeling, or they decided they couldn't write good science fiction, so they went, "I know it's real. Pay me money."
Well, that's an interesting science point that you picked on, and I agree. It's funny to think of aliens being the reason for those things, but also I could understand aliens passing by and leaving some sort of legacy as well.
Well, it wouldn't be hard for them to...
any sort of invasion.
You can imagine a bit of their trash. The Gods must be crazy. That movie perfectly exemplifies it. Like this guy chucks a Coke bottle out.
Yeah.
Worthless trash to any of us. We go, it's a Coke bottle.
Yeah.
But to this Kalahari Bushman, it's like the hardest, smoothest, strongest. It's transparent. It's like this is just an unknowable thing.
Yep.
And to us, as you can imagine, an alien comes down from 30,000 light years across the galaxy, rocks up, and they have a bit of a look around. They don't harm anyone or anything. They sort of, but they leave a bit of trash behind. There's some innocent. To them, it's just
the wheel.
It's just something there that's just it'll get buried over.
Plate,
It's not toxic. It's not a problem. But it turns out that it's some amazing piece of equipment that we find useful. Amazing.
Yeah, the only thing I really want to talk about with the technicalities, you mentioned it before with the filmmaking technicalities. There's some great cinematography moments in this, especially of Milla. She's shot really close up, to really give that vulnerability. And we talked about the music already. There's also some pretty cool use of shadows to illuminate the story rather than showing the actual scenes. Also think it's important to think of those costumes, in the 90s here where, this film does have CGI going on, but it also has the costumes. It's that real nice mix.
Jean-Paul Gaultier.
Yeah, it's the mix in this, isn't it? Like quite often we talk about this, and I talk about it a lot with other filmmakers, like sometimes too much CGI it's too much, and whereas this is probably that perfect mix. The sets have been built, the costumes are still real, even those alien heads, like they're real, and then at times they're CGI. So it's kind of like a really nice mix, I think. But what I wanted to pick on, and you did say this before, is there's a lot in this film where we have that juxtaposition in editing. So we have, for example, early in the taxi chase scene, we have them cutting from the taxi chase scene to the cops ordering burgers and then back to the chase scene. And we've got that going on in that scene. When it's the Major's apartment as well, like we have things going on in his apartment, and then they're cutting. We're seeing things going on while the plot points are ever evolving. The opera scene's a really good example that, she's singing and we have the aliens attacking her assistants and killing them, Lilu then fighting them, Zorg arriving, all while we keep cutting back to the opera scene, Yeah. And even the ship climax scene as well, you've got those multiple things going on of the Major and Lilu, coming together and leaving, Zorg arriving, the aliens blowing up the ship. So it's like all this intercutting or juxtapositioning between one thing to another. And at first I thought, it's great. Like early in the film, like, great, it's great. But then by the end, I'm like, wow, he really uses this a lot, Luke. Like this is something this is obviously his style, is to use a lot of this intercutting. And I feel that it kind of is used in this film, and it's probably the purpose of using this is to really create things like that emotional reaction of tension or humor, because that's what you can do when you do that. And it does give a bit of an illusion of the story moving a bit faster, because you're cutting from that to that to that to that to that to that, and just you're showing little bits rather than a whole scene sort of rolling out. So that was the main technicality I just wanted to pick on, is that style of editing. Like, it's a different style of editing. We haven't really seen a lot of films, that we've talked about in Space Brains where they do that. Like there's there's not a lot.
I feel it's something that Joss Whedon has done in Buffy, and that's kind of he uses that a bit in his style.
You'll find that a lot of action sequences do that, but this is used a lot throughout the film.
Yeah,
where constant.
An actor in one scene poses a question, and an actor in another scene that's kind of running parallel answers it, as if someone in that scene is asked, when it says, the stones aren't here, and then it cuts across, where are the stones?
Yeah.
What do you mean you don't have, it's sort of, it's like one conversation, but in two places at the same time.
Yeah, so it's almost like they're showing us, like, that's a good example. Like, Lilu says the stones were stolen to the priest and to Major, and then we cut to Zorg, who's looking for the stones, and realizing that, because then he opens and there's no stones. So the one set of characters are learning, oh, no, the stones aren't there, don't worry. Then the bad guys actually having the experience of, oh, the stones aren't here, where are the stones? Oh, I need to talk to that priest. And we're going back to the priest, he's going, oh, what do you mean, where are the stones? Oh, they're here, they're with the opera singer. Going back to Zorg, going, find those stones, find where they are.
Yeah.
And then we, cutting to the president going, where are the stones? Oh, the stones are here. And the henchmen learning that, and Zorg saying, okay, you've now learned that, go get them. You know what I mean? So it's like, and then at the same time, Major, we've got to go get them. So it's kind of a lot of this intercutting going on. Yeah. And it's throughout the whole story. It really stood out to me when I watched it this time. And it's done well. I think it's done really well.
Yeah, it was done, as I said, to tell that story, move it along, but also it was a little bit humorous there where they're all learning the same sort of thing, but it has different effect on them.
It does.
Zorg's disappointed. Lilu's kind of, well, yeah, the stones aren't there. And the priest's going, what? Surprise. So
anyway, that's what I just wanted to quickly focus on, and then we'll move on. But let us know what you thought about The Fifth Element, what you also thought about what we thought about The Fifth Element. You can hit us up at Facebook and Instagram and Twitter.
At Gravity Undone.
Yeah, Gravity Undone.
Spacebrains podcast at gravityundone.net.
Yeah, all of those places.
Email.
Send a letter through tubes, like in Fifth Element.
Yeah, if you hang around Mandra long enough, I'm sure you'll come across me somewhere.
Somewhere you'll find me.
You may not recognise me, but,
Definitely. And the next film, we're moving on, episode 46, is Prospect. It's a 2018 film. I've never seen it. I'm excited to look at it. Something to do with a father and a daughter going up in space. It's not set in the future, but I've never seen it, so I'm excited about that. So you can tune in and listen to what we think about Prospect on our next episode. So that's probably enough.
Yeah.
See you later.
See ya.
Bye.